Shut that filthy mouth of yours. This is my courtroom, not some filthy market corner where you wander in and out as you please. Judge, Harold, Whitaker snapped, then hurled the pen in his hand straight at Maya's face the moment she spoke. He stepped down closer to the witness stand before anyone could breathe. Your race has never appeared here as anything but criminals. Step down now, before I have you dragged out. Cruel laughter broke across the courtroom. Assistant, U.S. Attorney Richard Vale leaned back with a victorious smile, while Deputy Marshal Phelps quietly shifted his position near the side wall, blocking the clear view of the courtroom surveillance camera with his broad shoulders. At the witness stand, Maya William did not flinch. Her hands gripped the wooden rail, but her eyes stayed locked on the judge. Her voice cut through the laughter, calm and hard. Your Honor, I suggest you choose your next words very carefully. The laughter died instantly. Judge Whitaker's face tightened. Are you threatening this court? No, Judge, Maya said. I'm remembering it. Whitaker leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous hiss. You were called as a witness, young lady, not an activist. One more word of defiance, and I will hold you in contempt. Maya did not raise her voice. I answered the question before you interrupted me. Whitaker slammed his palm against the bench. You will not correct me in my courtroom. Then don't give me something that needs correction. Richard Vale stood quickly. Your Honor, the government moves to strike the witness's remarks. Granted, Whitaker said at once. All of it. Maya turned slightly toward the court reporter. Including the judge's statement about my race? Whitaker's eyes flashed. Phelps moved again. This time it was not subtle. He stepped directly between Maya and the nearest wall camera, then folded his arms as if guarding the room from her instead of guarding the law. Maya noticed. Vale noticed too, and his smile returned for only half a second. Whitaker pointed the pen at Maya again. One more word, and I will hold you in contempt. Maya looked at the pen, then at him. Understood. Step down. She stepped down, but she did not leave. Caleb Turner sat at the defense table in a worn navy suit, his shoulders stiff, his jaw locked. He had already been forced to listen while the judge mocked his attorney, dismissed objections, and treated every question from the defense like an insult. Now another person had been humiliated in front of him for daring to speak. As Maya passed behind the defense table, Caleb whispered, I'm sorry. Maya did not stop. She gave him one brief look, enough to tell him that his apology was not the thing needed in that room. Then she took a seat near the back, where she could see Whitaker, Vale, Phelps, the courtroom doors, and the camera Phelps kept drifting in front of whenever Maya's direction changed. Whitaker struck the bench lightly with his gavel. Mr. Vale, proceed. Vale rose with the smooth confidence of a man walking through a door already opened for him. He described Caleb Turner as dangerous, unstable, hostile to federal authority. He repeated the charge that Caleb had threatened a federal employee in the courthouse hallway and resisted officers who tried to intervene. He moved fast, skipping over the missing hallway footage as if it had never existed. He mentioned the arrest report, but not the time gap. He mentioned witness statements, but not the woman who had withdrawn hers the night before trial. The defense attorney, Michael Crane, stood quickly. Your Honor, the defense renews objections regarding both the missing hallway footage and the mismatched time logs in the arrest report. Denied. Whitaker cut him off before Crane could even look at his notes. The court has already ruled on those matters. If you continue wasting time with conspiracy theories, I will sanction you. Crane stiffened, forced to look down. Understood, Your Honor. Caleb's mother sat 2 rows behind him, clutching a small black Bible against her chest. She did not cry. She only watched the judge the way older people watch a storm they have seen before, knowing exactly how much damage it can do. Vale continued. The government intends to show that Mr. Turner acted with deliberate aggression and knowingly interfered with federal personnel. Maya watched Phelps again. When Vale said, federal personnel, Phelps glanced at the camera and shifted his feet. His shoulder blocked the lens. Then he looked toward Whitaker, and Whitaker looked away too quickly. That was not coincidence. Michael Crane made a final, desperate push. We request the phone location report that places Mr. Turner miles away from the alleged incident. Whitaker's gavel came down like a thunderclap. Move. On. Mr. Crane. The trap was locked. Whitaker was systematically burying every piece of exculpatory evidence. From the back row, Maya's eyes tracked the entire chain of corruption: the blocked camera, the hidden phone records, and the prosecutor's smug smile. They thought they had sealed the room, but they had only handed her the perfect roadmap for her investigation. Whitaker struck the gavel for a short recess. Before the echo died, Maya was already on her feet. She didn't head for the main public exit. Instead, she slipped toward the restricted side corridor, her eyes fixed on Prosecutor Vale as he whispered something into Marshal Phelps's ear. The courtroom recording had stopped, but Maya's investigation was just beginning. Maya slipped through the side corridor before the courtroom doors had fully settled behind the recess crowd. The hallway was narrower than the public entrance, lined with beige walls, sealed office doors, and a row of security cameras mounted too high for most people to notice. She noticed all of them. Ahead, Richard Vale walked fast with Deputy Marshal Phelps close beside him. Vale kept his voice low, but not low enough. "She's not just some random witness," Vale said. Phelps gave a short laugh. "She looked pretty random when the judge put her in her place." Vale stopped near a water fountain and turned sharply. "Don't get stupid." She asked about the phone report with her eyes, before Crane said it out loud. Phelps's smile faded. "You think she knows?" "I think she needs to stay away from records, cameras, and anyone connected to Denise Porter." Maya slowed behind a corner, close enough to hear, far enough to disappear if either man looked back. Phelps cracked his knuckles. "Then I'll make sure she understands courthouse boundaries." Vale adjusted his cufflinks, his face smooth again. "No touching her in public, no scene. Whitaker doesn't need noise before sentencing." "Sentencing?" Phelps asked. "I thought we were still pretending Turner had a chance." Vale's smile returned. "Not after today." They moved on. Maya waited 3 seconds, then stepped out and walked in the opposite direction, her pace steady. The first rule was simple: never chase the first answer too loudly. Let the guilty believe they still controlled the hallway. Michael Crane, Caleb Turner's public defender, was pacing near the restricted conference rooms. Maya cut him off before he could turn away. "You knew about the phone report," she said directly. Crane flinched, quickly checking both directions of the hallway. "You shouldn't be back here. This corridor is off limits." "That's not an answer." "Where is the report?" "It vanished," Crane whispered, his hands trembling slightly. "Cell site data. Timestamps. It completely disappeared from discovery 3 days before the indictment." Vale claimed it was just a draft mistake. "And you accepted that?" Crane looked at her then, tired and angry at the same time. "I filed a motion. Whitaker denied it in chambers. When I pushed again, he warned me that if I kept poisoning the record with baseless claims, he would sanction me and report me to the bar." Maya held his gaze. "So Caleb pays for your fear." Crane's jaw tightened. "You think I don't know that? I think you know exactly what's happening, and still haven't decided whether your career is worth more than his life." The words hit him harder than a shout. He looked down as if it might give him somewhere to hide. "I'm a public defender. I have 93 open cases. Whitaker can destroy every client I put in front of him. He already is." Crane closed his eyes for half a second. When he opened them, he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. He did not hand it to her directly. He set it on top of the vending machine. "That's the original witness list," he said. "Before Denise Porter withdrew, before the hallway footage disappeared, before the arrest time changed." Maya picked it up. "Changed from what?" Crane leaned closer. "The first draft said the alleged threat happened at 9:51. The final report says 9:42. 9 minutes. 9 minutes," he repeated. "Enough time to put Caleb in the wrong place." Maya snatched the document, scanning the unmentioned names. A maintenance worker, a facility tech, and Denise Porter. Why weren't they called? "They were threatened," Crane admitted flatly. "The tech transferred with no records left behind. Denise Porter gave me a statement proving the federal employee grabbed Caleb first, but then Phelps pulled her aside. He broke up her son's pending probation, and she withdrew her testimony the next morning." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Where is Denise now?" Magnolia Diner on East Pearl Street. She works the lunch shift. But keep my name out of it. Whitaker doesn't just rule against people, he destroys anyone who resists. I won't. Maya glanced toward the courtroom, where the seal of the United States hung above the doors like a promise somebody had forgotten to keep. Then he's been teaching the wrong lesson. Crane stared at her. Who are you? Maya did not answer. Before he could ask again, heavy footsteps echoed. Deputy Marshal Phelps marched down the hall, his eyes locking onto Maya. This is a restricted zone, Phelps growled, stepping directly into Maya's path. Witnesses wait in the public gallery, not snooping around chambers. Maya didn't back down an inch. I walk where I please, and you block a lot of surveillance cameras for someone supposedly in charge of security. Crane went still. Phelps's smile vanished. For a moment, the hallway seemed to shrink around them. Then Phelps leaned closer, lowering his voice so only Maya could hear. Careful. People who wander into restricted areas sometimes find themselves detained. Maya met his eyes. People who detain witnesses off the record sometimes find themselves explaining why. The muscles in Phelps's jaw moved. He glanced past her toward the nearest camera, then took one deliberate step sideways. Not enough to make it obvious to anyone else. Enough to keep his body between Maya and the lens. Maya saw it again. A beat. Not an accident. If you feel for Maya, the woman standing alone against injustice in this room, please like this video to show your support for her. Comment where you are watching from, because there may be people near you watching this story with you right now. The recess bell sounded from inside the courtroom. Phelps stepped back, restoring his official smile. Court's back in session. Crane walked away first, carrying his coffee like a shield. Maya followed at a measured pace, but she did not return to the witness area. She took her seat in the back row again, the folded witness list hidden inside her jacket. At the front of the room, Caleb Turner stood when the judge entered. His mother rose behind him, Bible pressed against her chest. Richard Vale looked refreshed, almost amused. Up front, Whitaker reclaimed his bench like an untouchable king, entirely unaware that his wall of corruption now had a massive crack in it. Maya sat silently in the back row. The missing footage, the altered timeline, the buried phone report, and the threatened witness, she had everything she needed. As Whitaker's gavel struck to resume the session, Maya slipped out the back doors. It was time to find Denise Porter. The moment Whitaker's gavel struck, Vale rose again and pulled the courtroom back under his polished control. He called the federal employee who had accused Caleb Turner of making the threat. The man walked to the stand with the stiff confidence of someone who had been rehearsed too many times. State your name for the record, Vale said. Thomas Greer. And your position? Facilities Compliance Officer for the federal building. Vale nodded as if every word had already proven his case. Mr. Greer, did you encounter the defendant, Caleb Turner, on the morning in question? Yes, sir. What happened? Greer looked at Caleb, then away. He became aggressive in the east corridor. He stepped toward me, raised his voice, and said I'd regret what I'd done. Maya watched Caleb's hands tighten on the edge of the defense table. Vale continued. Did you feel threatened? Yes. Did you request assistance? Yes. Who responded? Deputy Marshal Phelps. Phelps stood near the side wall, expression blank now, shoulders squared beneath his uniform jacket. He looked like a man, hearing his name in a story he had helped write. Michael Crane stood, attacking immediately. Mr. Greer, isn't it true your access card didn't register in that hallway until 9:51, 9 minutes after the alleged threat? Objection, Vale shouted. Mischaracterizes records not in evidence. Sustained, Whitaker barked. Sit down, Mr. Crane, or I will sanction you for dragging this proceeding into baseless speculation. Crane didn't back down. The witness gave his statement directly to Deputy Marshal Phelps without ever reviewing the written report. This goes directly to whether the record was altered. Whitaker's gavel crashed down like thunder. The jury will disregard that completely. Mr. Crane, one more word and you will be removed from this courtroom in cuffs. Crane sat, defeated for the moment. Vale cleaned up the testimony quickly, guiding Greer through safe questions and simple answers. No camera footage, no access logs, no phone report, no mention of Denise Porter. Every dangerous door was closed before the jury could see it. When the judge called another short break, the jurors were let out. Caleb turned toward Crane, whispering hard. Crane shook his head, helpless and angry. Caleb's mother stood behind them, still clutching her Bible, her face set in the tired dignity of a woman who had learned not to fall apart in public. Maya rose before Phelps could fix his eyes on her again. She walked toward the main exit first, let him see her heading that way, then turned with the movement of the recess crowd and slipped into the side corridor. This time she did not follow Vale. She followed Greer. Greer ducked into a secluded alcove near the service elevator. Maya slipped behind the corner, pulling out her phone to record. "I don't like this," Greer hissed, his voice trembling. "The defense knows the access logs don't match. The defense suspects. They don't know Jack." Phelps growled back. "You want your company's federal contracts reviewed? You remember who buried your violations last year?" "I did. So stop shaking. The report says 942. The judge accepted 942, and that is your story." Maya pulled her phone halfway from her jacket, angled it toward the corner, and tapped once. She did not need a perfect recording. She needed enough. Greer's voice cracked. "What about the woman?" "What woman?" "The black lady from the stand." She heard too much. Phelps gave a quiet laugh. "She doesn't even know what hallway she's allowed to stand in." She didn't look scared. "She will." Footsteps moved. Maya slid back toward a recessed doorway marked staff only and turned her body as if reading a notice posted on the wall. Greer came out first, pale and sweating. He passed without seeing her. Phelps came next. He stopped. Maya looked up from the notice. Phelps stepped out, cornering her. "You have a bad habit of being where you don't belong, and you have a bad habit of fixing timelines for crooked judges," Maya countered smoothly. Phelps's eyes turned lethal. "Careful. Some people need a hard lesson in understanding consequences." "Deputy Marshal Phelps, Judge Whitaker needs you in chambers immediately." A court clerk broke in from down the hall, creating a timely distraction. Phelps flashed Maya a final, silent threat and walked away. The clerk remained until he was gone. Maya approached her carefully. "You needed him?" "No," the woman said. Maya waited. The clerk stepped closer, her voice a tense whisper. "My name is Nora Fields. I know what a deleted video looks like. There is a secondary backup archive for the East Corridor camera that Phelps doesn't know exists." Maya's focus locked in. "Where is the drive?" "Go to the public records counter right after recess. Ask for the certified hearing schedules from last month. That's your cover to get to the archive room. And don't involve the lawyers, they're too afraid to act." Before Maya could answer, the courtroom bell rang. Nora turned instantly and melted into the crowd. Maya returned to the courtroom through the public doors this time. Phelps watched her enter. She let him. Whitaker was already back on the bench. Vale was opening another file. Caleb sat rigid beside Crane, unaware that the case against him had just cracked wider in the hallway than it ever had in open court. Maya took her seat in the back row. In her pocket, her phone held Phelps's voice. In her jacket, the witness list pressed against her ribs. In her mind, one name had moved to the center of the case, Nora Fields. And somewhere inside that courthouse, a backup drive still remembered what Whitaker wanted buried. The afternoon session was a procedural execution. Whitaker systematically blocked every attempt Crane made to mention the timeline. The moment court adjourned, Nora Fields caught Maya's eye for a split second, dropped a yellow sticky note onto a stack of public forms at the counter, and walked away. Maya moved immediately. The note read, "Schedules. Last month." Maya requested the records, her eyes tracking Phelps as he stepped into the lobby, his gaze locked onto her. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was Evelyn Brooks. Maya answered, slipping into a quiet alcove. "They know you're onto them." Evelyn's sharp voice cut through the line. "Nora Fields gave you a lead on the backup drive, didn't she?" "Yes. But Phelps is watching my every move. Let him watch. Once men like Whitaker and Phelps know you're close to the truth, they stop playing by the rules. Do not open whatever Nora gave you inside that building." The clerk handed Maya a sealed envelope. Slipping past Phelps's icy stare, Maya exited the building and crossed into a coffee shop. She tore open the envelope. Hidden inside the schedules was a maintenance order for room B17, the East Corridor Backup Archive. A handwritten note read, "Access after 6:40, before janitorial reset. It's in basement storage, room B17, Maya told Evelyn over the phone, watching the courthouse entrance. A crew of night janitors was walking in. "I need access, but I don't know who to trust. Look for Lewis Carter," Evelyn replied instantly. "An older black man on the maintenance crew. He's been there 30 years. He knows every locked door and sees right through Whitaker's court. Call him." Maya ended the call after Evelyn gave her a number. She did not call immediately. First, she ordered black coffee she did not need and sat with the cup between both hands, watching the courthouse through the window. Phelps came out 10 minutes later. He stood on the steps, looked left, then right, then checked his phone. Vale joined him, speaking fast. Phelps shook his head once. Vale's face tightened. They did not know where the schedule led. Not yet. Maya took one sip of coffee, then dialed the number Evelyn had given her. A man answered on the fourth ring. "Carter. Mr. Lewis Carter. Depends who's asking. My name is Maya William. Evelyn Brooks gave me your number." Silence. Then his voice changed. Not warmer, but more careful. "Miss Evelyn doesn't give out numbers for gossip." "No, sir. What do you need?" "I need 10 minutes in the basement of the federal courthouse." That's a strange thing to ask a man with a pension. "I know. You police?" "No." "Reporter?" "No." "Lawyer?" "No." Another pause. "Then what are you?" Maya watched Phelps and Vale re-enter the courthouse across the street. Someone trying to keep an innocent man from being sentenced on a lie. Lewis Carter breathed once into the phone. "Caleb Turner?" "Yes. I saw his mama today." Maya waited. Lewis said. "She held that Bible like it was the last solid thing in the building. She may be right." The line stayed quiet for another second. Then Lewis said, "Staff entrance, 6:35. Don't wear shoes that make noise." The call ended. Maya put the phone down and looked once more at the courthouse. Behind its glass doors, Whitaker's courtroom was resetting for the next day. Files would be stacked. Chairs would be straightened. The judge's bench would be polished. The record would look clean. But below it, in a basement room marked B17, something dirty had survived, and Maya had less than an hour to reach it. At 6:35, Maya stood beside the staff entrance with a paper coffee cup in one hand and nothing in her face that said she was waiting for a man who could get her into a restricted basement. She had changed nothing about her appearance except her shoes. The heels were gone. In their place were black flats with rubber soles that made no sound on concrete. The side door clicked open. Lewis Carter, an older maintenance worker with a sharp gaze that defied his faded uniform, shoved a janitor's cart into the doorway. "No drinks past this door," Lewis muttered, eyeing her coffee cup. Maya tossed it instantly. He stepped back, letting her slip inside. "Evelyn said you were coming. Keep your mouth shut and hold these cleaning cloths. If anyone asks, you're inventorying supplies." The staff corridor smelled of floor wax, old paper, and machine heat. Lewis pushed the cart ahead of him, slow enough to look routine, fast enough not to invite questions. Maya walked on his right, carrying a stack of folded cleaning cloths he had handed her before they stepped inside. "If anybody asks," Lewis said, "you're helping inventory supplies. Do people ask? People ask when they see what they're not used to seeing. And are they used to seeing me? No." He turned the cart around a corner. "That's why you keep your mouth shut, unless I tell you different." They passed a break room where 2 security officers laughed at something on a phone. One glanced up, saw Lewis, then looked away. His eyes barely touched Maya. Lewis pushed the cart harder. The squeaky wheel complained against the tile. At the elevator, he pressed the basement button with his knuckle. Room B17 isn't just storage. It used to be the backup server room before they moved most systems upstairs. Old habits. Half the building forgot it exists. Phelps didn't. Lewis's mouth tightened. Phelps remembers anything that lets him put his hand where it doesn't belong. The elevator doors opened to the basement. The air below was colder, heavier, buzzing with pipes and electrical boxes. Fluorescent lights flickered over a long corridor lined with metal doors. Lewis stepped out first and listened. No voices. He moved. Maya followed. Camera ahead, he said without turning. Don't look up. She didn't. He pulled a small spray bottle from the cart and misted a smudge on the wall beneath the camera, wiping slowly, blocking the lens with his shoulder just long enough for Maya to pass behind him. He did it naturally, like a man who had cleaned that spot 1,000 times. At the next corner, he stopped. A metal door marked B17 stood 15 feet away. Maya looked at the blinking digital keypad beside the door. Maintenance bypass codes never change, Lewis whispered, typing a rapid sequence. The lock clicked green instantly. Get in. Inside, the room was smaller than Maya expected. Metal shelves, labeled boxes, disconnected monitors, a rack of older recording equipment along the back wall, still powered, lights blinking in a steady pattern. A thin layer of dust covered everything except the equipment handles. Someone had touched them recently. Maya shut the door quietly behind them. Which one? Lewis pointed to the rack. East Corridor Archive should be on that unit. If they didn't move it, Maya pulled a compact drive from her jacket and connected it. The system woke slowly. Too slowly. Every second sounded like a door opening behind them. Lewis stayed near the entrance, listening. The screen asked for credentials. Maya plugged her drive into the old server rack. The login screen flashed. Remembering Phelps's badge number from the station wall, she punched it in alongside the arrest date. The system bypassed immediately. Bingo, Maya muttered, pulling up the hidden East Corridor footage. The truth, unspooled in seconds. At 9:41 a.m., Caleb Turner was walking calmly alone. At 9:42 a.m., the exact time of the alleged threat, Caleb was on his phone, miles away from Thomas Greer. The real setup happened at 9:51 a.m. Greer cornered Caleb, aggressively initiating contact. Caleb raised his hands in defense. 2 minutes later, Marshal Phelps stepped directly out of a blind spot where he had been waiting all along. It was a completely coordinated ambush. Maya clicked forward. At 10:02 a.m., Denise Porter entered the frame, witnessing the arrest. Phelps cornered her next, hand threateningly over his weapon. Maya downloaded everything, along with logs showing Prosecutor Vale sneaking into Judge Whitaker's private chambers before the trial even began. A sound came from outside the door. Both of them froze. Keys. Lewis moved first. He grabbed a mop handle from the cart and shoved it into Maya's hands. Then, he snatched her drive from the port, disconnected it, and pushed her toward the shelves. Inventory, he whispered. The door opened. A young security officer stood outside with a flashlight. Behind him was Phelps. Phelps's eyes went straight to Maya. Well, he said, I keep finding you in places you don't belong. Lewis stepped forward before Maya could speak. She's with me. Phelps looked him over. I didn't ask you, Carter. You did, when you came into my storage room. This is federal property. Lewis nodded. And I've been cleaning federal property since you were still learning how to shine your shoes. The young officer looked uncomfortable. Phelps ignored him and stared at Maya. What are you doing down here? Maya held up the mop handle. Apparently. Inventory. Phelps stepped inside, his glare fixing on Maya. Open the bag. Lewis stood firmly between them. You want to search a DOJ-cleared witness without a warrant after hours? Go ahead, Marshal. Write it up. Put your badge number on it. I'll make sure the chief judge gets a copy by morning. Phelps's jaw clenched. He backpedaled, flashing Maya a toxic smirk. Tomorrow is going to be a very bad day for you. Then, I suggest you get some rest. Maya countered coldly. Phelps stormed out. Lewis locked the door and shoved the copied drive into her hand. Go. Save Caleb. His mother deserves justice. Maya slipped the drive into her jacket and ran out into the night. Her phone buzzed before she reached the corner. Unknown number. She answered without speaking. A woman's voice whispered, shaking hard. You spoke to Mr. Crane about me. Maya stopped. Denise Porter? She asked. A breath. Yes. What happened? They came by my apartment. Maya's grip tightened around the phone. Denise's voice broke lower. They said if I talk, my son goes back inside. Maya looked back at the courthouse. Where are you now? Magnolia Diner. Back booth. I don't have long. Maya was already walking. The video had given her the truth. Now the threatened woman had finally decided to speak. Maya reached Magnolia Diner 12 minutes later, taking the long way around the block before entering. She checked the front window, the reflection in the glass, the parked cars along East Pearl Street, and the dark sedan idling near the corner with no headlights. It could have been nothing. It was never nothing until proven otherwise. Inside, the diner was mostly empty, smelling of burnt coffee and floor wax. Maya bypassed the counter and slid into the back booth opposite Denise Porter, who was gripping a glass of melted iced tea like a lifeline. Denise looked toward the door. "Did anyone follow you? Not into the diner?" "That doesn't answer the question." "No," Maya said. "It doesn't. I shouldn't have called," Denise whispered, her eyes darting to the door. "But you did," Maya replied, her voice steady. She ordered a black coffee and a slice of peach pie from a passing waitress, keeping their interaction completely mundane. Once the waitress left, Denise leaned in. "You talk like cops." "I'm not a cop," Maya said flatly. "I'm the person stopping Whitaker from destroying Caleb." "What did Phelps do at your apartment?" Denise's fingers trembled. Phelps showed up at 5:30 with an unnamed man in a suit. He called it a courtesy visit. Then he casually dropped my son Marcus's probation officer's name. He told me a boy on probation doesn't need his mother making enemies in federal court. The suit added that Caleb was going down anyway, and I had to choose who I wanted to protect. Maya held her gaze. "Did you see Caleb threaten Thomas Greer?" "No." "What did you see?" Denise's fingers trembled against the glass. "Greer came at Caleb first. Caleb was standing near the elevator, talking on his phone. Greer pointed at him, got close, kept saying something about complaints. Caleb backed up. He raised his hands like this. She lifted both palms, chest high, like he was trying to show he didn't want trouble. And Phelps? He was already there." Maya leaned forward. "Before Greer called for help?" "Yes." "Where?" "Near the service hall, half behind that corner by the vending alcove." "Watching?" Denise nodded. "Waiting." Maya took that in without showing how important it was. Then what happened? Phelps came out fast once Greer stepped closer, grabbed Caleb by the arm. Caleb said, "Don't put hands on me." Not loud, not crazy, just like a man who knew what it could turn into. Phelps twisted him toward the wall and told him he was interfering with federal personnel. Did Caleb resist? He pulled back because Phelps had his wrist bent. Anybody would pull back. Maya asked, "Did Greer look frightened?" Denise's mouth hardened. Greer looked like he was following instructions. That matched the video. That mattered. Maya slid the napkin closer. "Can you write that down?" Denise recoiled slightly. "No." "Denise." "No. I write it down. They find it. They find it." Marcus goes back in. "You don't know what that means." "I know enough not to ask you to be brave for free." Denise looked offended. "This isn't about money." "No. It's about protection. If you give a statement, it has to go to someone who can protect you before Whitaker, Vale, or Phelps knows you gave it." Denise studied her. "You keep saying names like you're building something." "I am." "What? A record?" Denise's eyes narrowed. "That's what you said in court. You told the judge you were remembering it." Maya did not answer. Denise leaned closer. "Who are you, Maya William?" The bell over the diner door rang. Maya's eyes moved first. A man in a dark windbreaker entered, looked at the counter, then scanned the booths. Not Phelps. Not Vale. Younger. Clean haircut. Government posture trying to look casual. Denise saw him and went pale. "That's the man." "The one from your apartment?" "Yes." The man spotted them. The man stepped directly up to their booth, flashing a practiced plastic smile. "Mrs. Porter, didn't expect to see you here. Hope you aren't getting bad advice." Maya didn't look up from her coffee. "Name? No need for names," he sneered. Maya looked directly at Denise. "Is this the man who threatened your son with Phelps?" "Careful, lady," the man warned, leaning over the table. "Is it him, Denise?" Maya repeated, her voice cutting like steel. "Yes," Denise whispered. Maya locked eyes with the intruder. "Tell Prosecutor Vale that sending his lackeys to stalk witnesses is a sloppy habit. Get out of this diner before I have the security camera above the register." Broadcast your face directly to the Department of Justice. His jaw tightened. He looked up and noticed the small black camera mounted near the ceiling. This time, there was no Phelps to block it. He stepped back. Denise whispered, "Oh my God." The man left without another word. The bell over the door rang again. Maya waited until he crossed the window and disappeared down the sidewalk. Then she pushed the untouched pie toward Denise. "Eat one bite." "I can't eat." "You can. People who are about to make decisions need sugar." Denise stared at the pie, then laughed once, broken and bitter. She picked up the fork and took a bite. Maya pulled a small card from her bag, blank except for a phone number written in blue ink. "Call this number from a phone that isn't yours. Say your name and that you are requesting witness protection review connected to Caleb Turner's case. Don't explain more than that until they verify the phrase, East Corridor." Denise took the card like it might burn her. "You still haven't told me who you are." "No." "Will that number protect my son?" "It can start the process." "That's not a promise. It's the honest answer." Denise looked at her for a long moment. "Caleb didn't do what they said." "I know." "No." Denise's voice grew stronger. "You have to hear me say it. Caleb Turner did not threaten that man. Greer lied. Phelps made it happen. And Judge Whitaker knew he was burying the truth today." Maya slowly took out her phone and placed it on the table. "Screen up." Denise stared at it. "You recording?" "Only if you say yes." Denise looked toward the door, then at the camera above the register, then at the pie in front of her. Her hand steadied around the fork. "Yes," she said. "Record it." Maya tapped the screen. Denise sat up straight, locked her gaze on Maya's recording phone, and delivered her statement. She exposed the timeline, Phelps's explicit threats, and the coordinated ambush. Once the file was securely transmitted to Washington, Maya left cash on the table and walked out into the cold night. Her phone buzzed as she reached the sidewalk. A text from an unknown number flashed. "Stop digging, little girl, or Turner won't be the only one sentenced." Maya smiled coldly, forwarded the text directly to the federal evidence drive, and kept moving. By the time Maya reached the corner, the courthouse had gone dark in pieces. The public windows still held a few squares of light, but the upper floors had already begun to look empty, official, and clean. That was how the building protected itself. By morning, the floors would shine, the flags would stand still, and no one walking through security would know a witness had been threatened in a diner 2 blocks away. Maya kept moving. She did not go straight to her car. She crossed the street twice, paused outside a closed pharmacy, checked the reflection in the glass, and waited until she was sure no one from the dark sedan had followed. Then she turned down a side street and called Evelyn Brooks. Evelyn answered on the first ring. "Tell me you're not calling from your own car." "I'm not." "Good. What happened?" Denise gave a recorded statement. She identified the man who came to her apartment with Phelps. He followed her to Magnolia Diner tonight. "Name?" "Not yet." "But you saw his face?" "Yes." So did the diner camera. Evelyn went quiet, and Maya could hear the older woman breathing through her nose the way she did when anger was arriving, but discipline got there first. They sent a man to a witness's apartment, then let him follow her after hours. That is not panic. That is habit. "I know. What else?" Maya turned the corner and stopped beneath a bus stop sign. "I got the East Corridor back up. Caleb was not threatening Greer at 9:42. Greer wasn't even there yet. Phelps was already positioned near the service hall before the confrontation started. Lord have mercy. And there are other clips. Same hallway, same pattern, different cases. How many? Enough to prove Caleb isn't the first." Evelyn did not speak for 3 seconds. "Then you are no longer holding one man's life in your hand, Maya. You are holding a door. And if I open it too soon, they destroy what's behind it." "Exactly. So don't open it. Build the frame first." Maya looked down the empty street. A city bus rolled by, nearly empty, blue-white light sliding across its windows. "I need Nora again. Then get her before Phelps does." Maya ended the call and dialed the number Nora had written in the margin of the work order. It rang 5 times. Nora answered in a whisper. "You shouldn't call me. You left a number. I left an emergency number. This is one." Nora inhaled sharply. Did you get it? Yes. Don't say more. I need the chain. What chain? Who had access? Who requested deletion? Who signed the camera failure report? Who knew the backup archive existed? Nora gave a small, bitter laugh. You don't ask for much. I ask for what survives. I can't pull that tonight. Then tell me where it is. No. Nora. No, you don't understand. If I access the wrong system after hours, Phelps sees it. If I print the wrong audit, Whitaker sees it. If Vale gets wind of my name, I lose my job before breakfast and my pension before lunch. Maya heard the fear, but she also heard something else under it. Nora had not hung up. 26 years, Maya said. That's how long you've worked there. Nora's voice changed. Who told you that? You did. Without saying it. Nobody describes a building the way you do unless they gave it half their life. Nora went silent. Maya continued. I'm not asking you to save everybody tonight. I'm asking you to tell me which file proves the lie did not start with Caleb. Nora whispered. There's a judicial access exception log. What does that show? When judges or chambers staff request restricted administrative records outside standard procedure, the system flags it. Most people never look at it because judges are treated like weather. You complain after the damage, not before. Whitaker accessed the camera records? Not directly. He's too careful. But his chamber's administrator requested a preservation hold on East Corridor footage 2 hours after the incident. That sounds helpful. It would be, except the hold was canceled 4 minutes later. By whom? Nora's voice dropped. Grant Phelps. Maya's grip tightened on the phone. Can you prove that? Yes. Where? Clerk Archive Terminal 3. Not the public one. Internal. It prints with metadata, if you know the old command. Can you run it? I can, but not while Phelps is circling the building like a dog that smelled blood. Maya looked toward the courthouse, visible between 2 office buildings. Tomorrow morning? No. Too many eyes. When? Nora hesitated. There's a senior staff breakfast at 7:30 in the jury assembly room. Whitaker likes to be seen there shaking hands with court administrators. Phelps usually stands near the coffee urn pretending he's not listening. That gives us maybe 12 minutes. Where do I meet you? Public records counter. Ask for certified docket corrections from 2019. That's the excuse? That's the excuse. And the real file? The exception log and 2 sealed docket irregularity reports from cases that look like Caleb's. Maya went still. You found older cases? I found them years ago. Why didn't you report them? Nora's answer came fast, defensive, and tired. I did. To who? An internal ethics hotline. Twice. First time, nothing happened. Second time, my supervisor told me anonymous complaints could be traced if they were malicious. Then my health insurance paperwork disappeared for 6 weeks, and my husband's medication almost got denied. Maya did not soften her voice. Sympathy could sound like pity if handled wrong. So, you stopped. I survived. That's not the same thing. No, Nora said, the word breaking slightly. It is not. A car turned onto the street behind Maya. She moved away from the bus stop and crossed toward a laundromat with bright windows. Nora whispered, Who are you really? Maya watched the car pass. Someone who doesn't want your third report to vanish. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give tonight. Nora breathed unevenly. Tomorrow, 7:30. If I don't show, don't call me again. If you don't show, I'll assume Phelps reached you. Don't come looking for me. I won't promise that. Maya, you gave me a door, Nora. I'm not leaving you locked behind it. The line went quiet, then clicked dead. Maya lowered the phone and stood outside the laundromat for a moment, watching clothes tumble behind the glass. Inside, an older man folded towels with slow precision. A woman in scrubs sat beneath the humming television, asleep with her arms crossed over her bag. Ordinary people at the end of ordinary workdays, trusting that courts and badges and government seals meant somebody honest was still keeping order somewhere. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo. The image showed Caleb Turner's mother standing outside the courthouse earlier that afternoon, Bible tucked under her arm. The picture had been taken from across the street. Under it, one sentence appeared. Old women should teach their sons to plead guilty. Maya's face did not change. She forwarded the photo to the secure draft, then called Michael Crane. He answered with irritation and fear mixed together. Do you know what time it is? Where is Caleb's mother? What? Mrs. Turner. Where is she? At home, I assume. Don't assume. Call Caleb. Tell him to check on her now. Do not explain by text. Call. What happened? Someone sent me a photo of her. Crane stopped breathing for a second. Jesus. Call Caleb. Maya. What is going on? Your client's mother just became leverage. Crane's voice hardened in a way she had not heard from him before. I'll call him. Then call me back. She hung up and kept walking. 5 minutes later, Crane called back. She's home. Caleb is with her now. He's scared out of his mind. Good. That's your response. Scared means he'll listen. Tell him no visitors, no calls from unknown numbers, no stepping outside alone tonight. If anyone knocks and claims to be from the courthouse, he calls you and leaves the door closed. Crane said, I'm going over there. No, she's my client's mother. And if they're watching, you lead them straight into another argument they can twist. Send someone they won't use against him. Who? Maya looked back toward the diner, then toward the courthouse. Church. Crane understood immediately. Her pastor. Older. Steady. Known in the neighborhood. No drama. No courthouse connection. I'll make the call. And Crane? Yes? Tomorrow morning, renew your objection on the missing footage. Whitaker will deny it again. I know. Then why? Because I need him to do it on the record after I know what Nora prints. Crane was silent. Then he said, Nora Fields? Maya did not answer. Maya. If Nora is involved, she's in danger. So is Caleb. So is Denise. So is everyone who told the truth after walking into that building. Crane's voice dropped. And you? Maya looked at the courthouse again. They still think I'm just a witness. For how long? Long enough. She ended the call before he could ask the question everyone kept asking. Who are you? The answer could not come yet. Not to Crane. Not to Nora. Not to Denise. Not while Whitaker still believed the woman he had humiliated was only gathering scraps. Maya walked 2 more blocks to where she had parked. Before getting in, she checked the back seat, the tires, the cars around her, and the reflection in the driver's window. Nothing moved. She sat behind the wheel but did not start the engine. The drive from B-17 was in her jacket. Denise's statement was duplicated. Phelps's hallway threat was recorded. The text messages had been preserved. Tomorrow, Nora would try to pull the exception log tying Whitaker's chambers to the missing footage. The case was no longer a line. It was a chain, and somewhere inside that chain, one weak link was about to snap. At 7:22 the next morning, Maya entered the federal courthouse with a plain folder under one arm and the same calm face she had worn when Whitaker tried to break her in open court. The security line moved slowly. Belts came off. Keys clattered into plastic trays. A man in a work jacket complained about parking. A woman ahead of Maya asked whether knitting needles counted as a weapon. The guard told her they did, then softened when she said she was making a blanket for her first grandchild. Maya placed her bag on the scanner belt and walked through without looking toward the cameras. She already knew where they were. What mattered now was who stood beneath them. Phelps was not at the checkpoint. That was good. That was also dangerous. She collected her bag and stepped into the lobby. The courthouse was waking up in layers. Clerks with travel mugs, attorneys with rolling cases, older couples reading docket sheets, defendants standing too still beside family members who kept whispering reminders to breathe. Near the jury assembly room, senior staff had begun gathering for breakfast. Coffee urns, paper plates, a tray of grocery store pastries, men and women laughing politely around the kind of conversation that kept institutions comfortable. Maya spotted Whitaker immediately. He stood near the coffee, robe not yet on, suit immaculate, silver hair combed back, one hand resting on the shoulder of a court administrator as if blessing the room. He smiled like a man who had never shouted filth at a witness the day before. Phelps stood 15 feet away, pretending to read something on his phone. His eyes moved constantly. Maya walked to the public records counter. Nora Fields was not there. A younger clerk looked up. "Can I help you?" I need certified docket corrections from 2019. The clerk frowned. That may take some time. I can wait. The clerk turned toward a printer station. Maya kept her posture relaxed, but her eyes moved to the hallway behind the counter. Nora appeared there carrying a stack of files. Her face was pale. Her hair was pinned too tightly. She did not look at Maya until she reached the counter. I can handle this one, Nora said. The younger clerk shrugged and stepped aside. Nora took the request form from Maya without greeting her. You're requesting certified corrections? Yes. Year? Lanshanling Yishizhou. Any specific case number? Maya said. No. I was told there may have been irregular entries. Nora's fingers paused for half a second. Then, she stamped the paper. Wait. Here. She disappeared through the staff door. Maya turned slightly, watching the lobby through the reflection in the glass partition. Whitaker was still near the coffee urn. Phelps was not. Maya scanned left. Nothing. Right. Nothing. Then she saw him in the reflection, moving along the wall behind the records counter. Not toward Maya, but toward the staff door Nora had entered. Maya stepped away from the counter and crossed toward the courthouse directory. She took out her phone and called the number Nora had used the night before. No answer. Phelps reached the staff door. Before he could open it, Michael Crane entered the lobby from the public side carrying a briefcase and 3 case files stacked against his chest. He moved faster than Maya expected and collided with Phelps hard enough to send folders sliding across the floor. Watch it, Phelps snapped. Crane bent quickly. Sorry, Marshal. Sorry. I'm late. You're always late. Public defense budget doesn't come with a driver. Phelps glared down at him. Pick up your papers. I am. Crane moved slowly. Too slowly. Gathering pages at Phelps's feet. It bought Maya 20 seconds. She used them. She crossed back to the records counter and leaned toward the younger clerk. Excuse me. I left my pen on the form. The clerk looked confused. Miss Fields has it. I need it back before she files it wrong. It has my case note on the cap. The clerk hesitated, then pressed the buzzer under the counter. The staff door unlocked. Maya pushed through before the clerk could change her mind. Behind the counter, the records area was a narrow maze of cabinets, printers, and old computer terminals. Nora stood at Terminal 3, typing fast, her hands shaking. A printer beside her had already begun spitting out pages. Maya crossed to her. Phelps is coming. Nora did not look up. I know. Then move. Not yet. Nora, if I leave before it prints the metadata, it's just paper. If I wait, it's proof. The printer groaned. 1 page, 2, 3. Outside the staff door, Phelps's voice cut through the lobby. I need access. Crane's voice followed, strained but steady. Marshal, I'm just trying to make sure none of my client notes got mixed in. Phelps said. Move. Nora snatched the first pages, then kept typing. The hold request came from Chambers at 11:18, canceled at 11:22 under Phelps's credential. Then, a manual override at 11:29 suppressed the camera fault notice. By whom? Nora's mouth tightened. Richard Vale's office terminal. Maya's focus sharpened. Print it. I am. The staff door handle rattled. The younger clerk called from outside. Miss Fields? Nora grabbed the final page, folded the stack once, and shoved it into a certified copy envelope. She slapped a docket correction cover sheet on top. Take it, Nora said. Maya took the envelope and slid it into her folder. The door opened. Phelps stood there with Crane behind him, and the younger clerk peering over one shoulder. Phelps looked at Maya, then Nora, then the printer. What the hell is she doing back here? Nora answered before Maya could. She requested certified docket corrections. The counter was backed up. I brought her in to clarify scope. Phelps stepped inside. Public requesters don't come behind the counter. Nora lifted her chin. Then write me up. The words landed exactly where Lewis Carter's had the night before. Phelps's eyes narrowed. You people suddenly got brave. Nora's face tightened, but she did not drop her gaze. No, just tired. Phelps turned to Maya. Give me the folder. Maya held it at her side. No. This is a secure records area. Then you should be careful what you do in it. He stepped closer. You think a sharp tongue protects you? No, Maya said. Records do. His eyes flicked to the folder. That folder leaves with me. Crane moved into the doorway. Marshal, if that folder contains public records responsive to a certified request, seizing it may be improper. Phelps turned on him. Nobody asked you. Crane's voice shook, but he stayed there. I'm making a record. Maya looked at him once. That was the first useful sentence he had spoken in front of Phelps. The younger clerk whispered, "Should I call the clerk administrator?" Phelps froze. That was the last thing he wanted. Another administrator, another witness, another entry in another log. He smiled suddenly and stepped back. No need. Misunderstanding. Maya moved toward the door. As she passed him, Phelps said low enough for only her to hear, "Sentencing is tomorrow. Whatever you think you're building, you won't finish in time." Maya did not stop. "Then stop wasting mine." She walked out into the lobby with Crane beside her. He waited until they reached the far side of the courthouse directory before speaking. "You have it?" "Yes. What is it?" Chambers requested a preservation hold on the East Corridor footage. Phelps canceled it. Vale's office suppressed the camera fault notice. Crane went pale. That means they knew the footage mattered. It means they touched the record. What do we do? You do exactly what I told you. Renew your objection in open court. Ask for the access logs. Ask for the phone location report. Ask for the missing footage. Force Whitaker to deny each one again. He'll destroy me. He's already trying. Crane looked toward the courtroom hallway. And after he denies it, Maya slipped the folder closer to her side. Then the denial becomes part of the case. Crane lowered his voice. "What case?" Before Maya could answer, Richard Vale appeared near the jury assembly room. His eyes went from Crane to Maya to the folder. The smooth confidence dropped from his face for one clean second. Then he walked toward them. "Mr. Crane," Vale said. "Strange morning for private conversations." Crane found his spine slowly. "Not as strange as a missing phone report." Vale's expression hardened. "You should be careful. Repeating fantasies your witness feeds you." Maya turned to him. "There is no phone report, remember?" Vale looked at her. She continued. "You said that yesterday. In the hallway. In court. To anyone who would listen." "That's correct." "Then why did your office terminal suppress the camera fault notice 11 minutes after Judge Whitaker's chambers requested a preservation hold?" Vale did not blink this time. He went completely still. Crane stared at Maya. Phelps, across the lobby, saw Vale's face and started toward them. Maya stepped closer to Vale, keeping her voice low. "You have a problem, Mr. Vale. If the report doesn't exist, you lied about requesting it. If it does exist, you buried it. Either way, Caleb Turner is not your only problem anymore." Vale's polished mask returned, but thinner now. "I don't know what game you're playing." Maya looked past him at Phelps, closing in. "That makes two of you." The courtroom doors opened for the morning session. Whitaker entered from the private corridor, robe on now. Expression settled back into authority. The lobby began moving toward courtroom 2. Maya slipped the certified envelope deeper inside her folder and walked with the crowd. Behind her, Vale grabbed Phelps by the sleeve and whispered fast. This time Maya did not need to hear the words. The fear had finally changed sides. The courtroom filled faster than it had the day before. Word had moved through the courthouse without anyone admitting they had carried it. Something was wrong in courtroom 2. Something had shifted. Clerks lingered longer than necessary near the doors. Attorneys from other hearings stepped in for a moment, pretending to check their phones. Even the bailiff looked at Phelps twice before calling the room to order. Maya took her seat in the back row with the certified envelope pressed inside her folder and the B-17 drive hidden where no quick search would find it. Whitaker entered with his robe settled perfectly over his shoulders. He did not look at Maya. That was the first sign he knew enough to be careful. "All rise," the bailiff called. Everyone stood. Whitaker sat. "Be seated." The room obeyed. Vale stood before Crane could move. "Your Honor, before the defense attempts another improper delay, the government asks the court to instruct counsel to refrain from referencing documents, reports, or alleged footage that have not been admitted into evidence." Crane rose slowly. His hands trembled once, then steadied around his file. "Your Honor, The defense renews its request for the East Corridor surveillance footage, the original building access logs, and the phone location report referenced in pretrial communications. Whitaker's eyes cut toward him. Denied. Crane did not sit. For the record, Your Honor, the defense also requests clarification as to whether a preservation hold was placed on the East Corridor footage after the alleged incident. The air changed. Vale turned his head sharply. Phelps stopped moving near the side wall. Whitaker leaned back. Counsel, where did you get that idea? Crane swallowed, but he held his ground. From the absence of a proper production record. Your Honor, that is not an answer. It is the answer available to the defense because the government has withheld the necessary records. Vale stepped forward. Your Honor, this is exactly the kind of baseless accusation the government warned about. Crane spoke over him. Louder now. If the footage was preserved, the defense is entitled to know. If it was canceled, the defense is entitled to know who canceled it. If a phone report exists, the defense is entitled to receive it. And if the government intends to ask this jury to believe an event happened at 9:42, while refusing to produce logs showing who was actually present at 9:42, then the defense objects to the integrity of these proceedings. For the first time, Caleb Turner turned fully toward his own lawyer. Whitaker's gavel came down. Enough. Crane kept standing. Your Honor, I need a ruling on the record. You have one. Denied. On all three requests? Whitaker's jaw tightened. Denied. The footage? Denied. The access logs? Denied. The phone location report? Whitaker leaned forward. Mr. Crane, if you say those words again, I will hold you in contempt. Crane sat down, pale but no longer bent. Maya watched Vale exhale through his nose. He had wanted Whitaker to shut it down. He had not wanted the judge to do it that clearly. Each denial was now a clean entry in the transcript. Each one tied the court tighter to the thing it was trying to bury. Whitaker turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will disregard counsel's improper suggestions. There is no evidence before you regarding any so-called missing materials. Maya's eyes shifted to Phelps. He was blocking the camera again. This time his movement was smaller, more practiced. A step left, a half turn, shoulders squared. It placed his body between the wall camera and Vale's table. At the exact moment, Vale slid a folded note under a case file and pushed it toward the aisle. A clerk walked by and picked up the file as if clearing papers. Maya stood, not dramatically, just enough to move past the row behind her. She stepped into the aisle as the clerk approached the side door. Phelps saw her at once. Sit down, he said. Maya looked at him. I'm stretching my legs. Court is in session. Then stopped talking to me. A few heads turned. Phelps moved toward her, which forced him away from the camera. The clerk froze with the file in hand. Maya glanced at the file, then at Vale. Vale's face hardened. Whitaker struck the gavel. Miss William, sit down or leave my courtroom. Maya turned toward him. Which one is the court ordering, Your Honor? Whitaker's stare sharpened. He knew the trap. If he ordered her out, the transcript would show another removed witness. If he let her stay, she remained a problem. Sit down, he said. Maya sat. The clerk hurried out with the file, but Phelps had been pulled off the camera, and Maya had seen the note. Not the words. The direction. Vale to side door. Side door to Chambers corridor. Chambers corridor to someone who should not be receiving messages during testimony. Whitaker called the next witness, Deputy Marshal Grant Phelps. Phelps's expression changed for less than a second. He had not expected to be called this early. Vale had moved too fast. Phelps took the stand, raised his right hand, and swore to tell the truth with a face that had practiced lying in smaller rooms. Vale approached. Deputy Marshal, did you respond to an incident involving the defendant, Caleb Turner? Yes. What did you observe? Mr. Turner was agitated. He refused instructions. He pulled away when I attempted to secure the situation. Did you believe he posed a threat? Yes. Did you use reasonable force? Yes. Vale nodded. Did anyone pressure any witness in this case to change testimony? No. Did you delete or alter any surveillance footage? No. Did you interfere with any evidence? No. Each answer came flat. Official, sealed. Crane stood for cross-examination. He looked toward Maya once, then back at Phelps. Deputy Marshal, where were you at 9:42 on the morning of the alleged incident? In the East Corridor. Why? Routine security. Before anyone called you? Phelps paused. I don't recall the exact call time. Crane lifted a page. Did Thomas Greer call you before or after he approached Caleb Turner? Objection, Vale said. Sustained, Whitaker replied. Crane tried again. Did you speak with Denise Porter after the incident? I speak to many members of the public. Did you mention her son's probation file? Vale stood. Objection. Harassment. Whitaker's voice hardened. Sustained. Did you visit Mrs. Porter's apartment last night? The courtroom went quiet. Phelps's eyes changed. Vale snapped. Objection. No foundation. Whitaker struck the bench. Sustained. Mr. Crane, approach. Crane did not move. Your Honor, the defense has reason to believe a government witness was intimidated after court yesterday. Whitaker's face flushed. Approach. Now. Crane walked to the bench. Vale joined him. White noise hummed through the courtroom speakers, masking the sidebar. Phelps sat rigid on the witness stand. Maya watched his left hand close and open once against his knee. Then her phone vibrated. Unknown number. A message appeared. You should have stayed out of B-17. Maya did not react. She took a screenshot, forwarded it to the secure draft, then looked up. Phelps was staring at her. Not Vale. Not Whitaker. Phelps. That meant the message had not come from the man in the diner. It had come from inside the courthouse or from someone Phelps had already reached. The sidebar ended. Whitaker's ruling came hard. The defense will not pursue unsupported allegations of witness intimidation in front of the jury. The question is stricken. The jury will disregard it. Crane returned to the defense table, but he did not look defeated this time. He looked frightened for a better reason. He knew they had hit something alive. Vale finished with Phelps quickly and asked that the government rest for the day. Whitaker agreed too fast. Court will recess until tomorrow morning for closing arguments and sentencing considerations outside the presence of the jury as scheduled. Crane stood. Your Honor, sentencing has not been reached. Whitaker looked down at him. Mr. Crane, based on the procedural posture and pending motions, this court is prepared to address disposition tomorrow. Do not test my patience. The gavel fell. The jurors were let out. The room broke into movement, but the pressure stayed. Caleb turned to Crane, demanding answers under his breath. His mother rose with one hand on the bench in front of her, Bible tucked under her arm. Maya stood and started toward the exit. Phelps stepped into her path before she reached the aisle. You went into B-17. Maya looked at him. Is that a question? It's a problem. For who? His smile was gone now. You don't know what you're standing in. I know exactly what I'm standing in. No. He leaned closer. You found a few old files and think you understand the building. You don't. This place has buried better people than you. Maya did not move back. Then, it should have learned to dig deeper. His eyes flicked toward her folder. Give me what you took. I didn't take anything from you. You took federal property. Then report it. That stopped him again. Report meant paper. Paper meant time. Time meant record. Vale appeared behind him, voice low and sharp. Grant. Phelps did not turn. Vale repeated. Now. Phelps stepped aside, but not before saying, Tomorrow ends this. Maya passed him. You said that yesterday. She walked out through the public doors and into the lobby. Crane caught up with her near the courthouse directory, breath tight. They know about B-17? Yes. How? Someone saw enough. Or someone talked. Nora? No. You don't know that. I know fear. Nora is afraid of being exposed. That message wanted me afraid of being found. Crane looked back toward the courtroom. Whitaker is moving to finish this tomorrow. That means we're close. It means Caleb could be sentenced before we can get anyone to act. Maya handed him one photocopied page from the envelope. Not the whole file. Just enough. This shows the preservation, hold, and cancellation. Keep it separate. If I don't show tomorrow, You stand up before the gavel falls and read the first line. Crane stared at the page. If you don't show, don't ask questions that slow you down. Maya. She stepped closer. You wanted to know who I am. Not yet, but understand this. Tomorrow morning, you do not fold. You do not apologize. You do not ask softly. You put the words, missing footage, access logs, phone report, and witness intimidation into the record one more time. Crane folded the paper and tucked it inside his jacket. And you? Maya looked past him. At the far end of the lobby, Daniel Reese stood near the security checkpoint, pretending to read a message on his phone. She had not told him where she would be, yet there he was. Maya's voice lowered. I'm going to find out who opened the door for them. Daniel looked up. Their eyes met. And for the first time since the case began, Maya saw the chain reach back toward her own side. Daniel Reese did not move when Maya saw him. He stood near the security checkpoint with his phone in one hand, suit jacket open, tie loosened just enough to make him look like a man passing through between meetings. But his eyes gave him away. They were not surprised to see her. They were waiting. Maya walked toward him without changing pace. Crane followed half a step behind. Who is that? Someone who should not be here. Daniel put his phone away. Maya. She stopped 3 feet from him. You came a long way to check your messages. He glanced at Crane. We need to speak privately. No. Daniel lowered his voice. Not here. Maya looked past him toward the cameras above the security line. Here has cameras. That's exactly why not here. Crane shifted beside her. Maya, should I call someone? Daniel looked at him sharply. You must be Michael Crane. Crane stiffened. And you are? Daniel ignored the question. His eyes stayed on Maya. You need to leave the building. Now. Maya held his stare. Because they know about B-17? Daniel's face changed. Only slightly, but enough. Crane saw it. My God. Maya stepped closer. You opened my sealed report. Daniel's jaw worked once. I accessed a status summary. At 2:14 yesterday, his eyes flicked toward the cameras. Vale called Phelps at 2:21, Maya said. 7 minutes later, Crane whispered, You're the leak. Daniel turned on him. You don't know what you're talking about. Maya's voice stayed flat. Then explain the 7 minutes. Daniel said nothing. That was enough. Maya turned to Crane. Go to Caleb. Stay with him until he leaves the building. Keep the page I gave you off your desk and off your phone. Crane looked between them. Are you sure? No. Go. Crane hesitated, then walked away fast. One hand pressed over the inside pocket of his jacket. Daniel watched him leave. You just handed evidence to a public defender who can barely stand up to Whitaker. He stood up today, and tomorrow Whitaker will bury him with sanctions. Not if the record is bigger than Whitaker. Daniel exhaled through his nose. You still think this is just about a dirty judge? No. I think it's about who warned him. He stepped closer. Maya, listen to me. You are too exposed. Your name is moving through the wrong rooms. You moved it. I tried to slow you down. By feeding Vale? His face hardened. By keeping you? Maya almost laughed. But the sound never came. That's the oldest excuse in the book. You don't understand the pressure. I understand timestamps. Daniel looked around the lobby. Not here. Before Maya could answer, Phelps appeared at the far corridor with 2 courthouse security officers. He did not walk toward her directly. He angled wide, cutting off the route to the public doors. Vale stood behind him, phone against his ear, watching without expression. Daniel saw them and muttered, Damn it. Maya looked at him. Still slowing me down? Phelps reached them with a smile that had been sharpened for public use. Miss William, you need to come with us. Maya turned. Am I under arrest? No. This is an administrative matter. Then I decline. One of the security officers shifted uncomfortably. Phelps kept smiling. You were seen in a restricted records area and a basement storage room. We need to verify whether you removed federal property. Maya looked toward Vale. Did Mr. Vale write that for you? Phelps's smile vanished. Bag, phone, and folder. Now. Daniel stepped in. Marshal. Not in the lobby. Phelps looked at him. Who are you? Daniel pulled a credential halfway from his jacket, not long enough for anyone nearby to read it. Someone telling you not to make this worse. Vale ended his call and moved closer. Grant, take her to conference room C. No scene. Maya looked at Daniel. There it is. Phelps gestured to the officers. This way. Maya did not resist. She handed nothing over. She walked because the lobby had too many civilians, too many frightened families, too many people who had come to the courthouse believing bad things only happened once a judge ordered them. She would not give Phelps a reason to turn the hallway into a spectacle. Conference room C had no windows. A long table, 8 chairs. A wall-mounted camera in the far corner with a red light blinking. Phelps noticed it after Maya did. "Turn that off," he told one officer. The officer hesitated. "Marshal, turn it off." Maya placed her folder on the table but kept one hand on it. "You should put that instruction in writing." Phelps closed the door. Daniel remained inside near the wall. Vale did not enter. That mattered. Vale wanted distance. Phelps held out his hand. Phone. No. Laptop. No. Folder. No. He leaned over the table. "You are in a restricted federal facility under suspicion of removing secured materials. Then charge me." His nostrils flared. "You think you're clever. I think you're avoiding paperwork," Daniel said quietly. "Grant, stop." Phelps ignored him. "Open the bag." Maya looked at the camera. The red light was still blinking. Phelps followed her gaze, then stepped in front of it with a curse. "I said turn it off." The officer outside the door called back. "System says supervisor access required." Maya's eyes stayed on Phelps. Bad morning for cameras. He moved fast then, snatching her bag from the chair beside her. Daniel stepped forward, but Phelps pointed a finger at him. "Back up." Maya did not grab for the bag. She let him open it. He pulled out her laptop, a charging cord, pens, court copies, a small external drive, and the certified envelope from public records. He seized on the drive first. "What's this?" "Storage." "For what?" "Files." His smile returned. "That's funny." He connected the drive to the laptop. Maya watched without expression. It was the decoy from B-17, loaded with enough irrelevant archive fragments to look important, and enough metadata noise to waste time. Phelps clicked through folders. "East Corridor. Looks like federal property to me. Looks like you know exactly what you were looking for." He slammed his palm on the table. "Whatever game you're playing, little girl, it ends before sentencing." Daniel's eyes cut toward the camera. Maya saw it too. Phelps had spoken clearly. The camera had the room. If the microphone worked, the sentence lived. She leaned back slightly. "Is Judge Whitaker aware you're detaining a witness off the record?" Phelps bent close. "Who's going to believe you?" Daniel said. "Grant." Phelps snapped. "Shut up." Maya looked at Daniel now. "You heard him." Daniel's face tightened. Phelps pulled the certified envelope open and scanned the top sheet. His face changed when he saw the preservation hold log. "Where did you get this?" "Public request." "Bull." "Certified copy." He tore the envelope from the folder. "This stays with me." "No," Maya said. He laughed once. "You don't decide that." Daniel moved to the table. "If that's certified public record, you can't just seize it without a receipt." Phelps stared at him. "Are you advising her now?" Daniel did not answer. Maya watched him. This was the choice, not the confession, not the apology. The choice. Phelps gathered the laptop, the decoy drive, and the envelope. "You walk out of here and forget B-17. You forget Nora Fields. You forget Denise Porter. Tomorrow, Turner gets sentenced, and this courthouse goes back to normal." Maya stood. "Normal is what brought you here." He stepped into her space. "You have no idea what this building can do to people." "No," Maya said. "But you keep demonstrating." He stared at her for one more second, then opened the door. "We're done." Maya picked up her bag, now lighter. Daniel followed her into the corridor. Phelps went the other way with the laptop and the decoy drive tucked under one arm, believing he had cut the wire. They walked in silence until they reached a service alcove. Then Maya stopped. Daniel said, "You planned that." "I planned for someone to get greedy. I didn't know which one of you it would be." He flinched. "Maya." She turned on him. At 2:14, you opened my sealed report. At 2:21, Vale called Phelps. At 6:03, Phelps knew about B-17. At 8:11 this morning, Vale knew Nora printed the log. You are either compromised or criminal. Pick one. Daniel's face broke then, just enough to show the man beneath the suit. Vale has my brother's file. Your brother is grown. He's facing a federal enhancement he doesn't deserve. Vale told me it could go away if I kept him informed. I didn't give him evidence. I only told him you were moving. You gave him targets. Daniel looked down. Maya, I thought I could manage it. You don't manage corruption. You feed it, or you expose it. His voice dropped. What do you want? A written statement. Right now. You accessed my report. You relayed information to Vale. Vale used it to direct Phelps. You name the pressure. You name the calls. You sign it. That ends my career. No, Maya said. What you did ended your career. This decides whether it ends as cowardice or testimony. Daniel looked toward the hallway, where Phelps had gone. Maya stepped closer. Fear explains what you did. It doesn't excuse it. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he took out his phone. I'll sign. Not on your phone. Then where? Maya looked toward the public business center beside the records lobby. Paper. Printer. Timestamp. 2 copies. Daniel gave a bitter nod. You really don't trust anybody. Maya started walking. I trusted the record. So far, it's the only thing telling the truth. The public business center sat behind a row of half-dead plants and a copier that sounded like it was chewing gravel. It was close enough to the records lobby to feel official, but far enough from the courtrooms that most attorneys ignored it unless they needed emergency copies. Maya chose the far computer, the one with its screen angled toward the wall. Daniel sat beside her, shoulders tight, hands folded on the table like a man waiting for a verdict. Maya placed a blank sheet in front of him. Start with the date and time. Daniel looked at the paper. You're enjoying this? No, I'm documenting it. He gave a humorless laugh. Of course you are. Right. He picked up the pen. For the first few lines, his hand moved slowly, then faster. The words began to come out in stiff legal phrases, the kind men use when they want confession to look like procedure. Maya stopped him before he finished the second paragraph. Plain English. Daniel looked up. This is plain. No. That's how people write, when they still think they can survive the truth by dressing it up. Write what happened. His mouth tightened. He crossed out 3 lines and started again. I accessed a sealed report prepared by Maya William without authorization to share its contents. I contacted Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Vale and informed him that Miss William was reviewing courthouse records connected to the Caleb Turner matter. Mr. Vale had previously pressured me regarding my brother's pending federal case and suggested that cooperation from me could affect prosecutorial decisions. Maya read over his shoulder. Keep going. Daniel's jaw flexed. He wrote more. After my call, Mr. Vale contacted Deputy Marshal Phelps. I later learned Miss William was confronted regarding the records and B-17 backup materials. I did not report this contact immediately. I understand my actions may have helped obstruct an ongoing review of misconduct, witness intimidation, and suppression of evidence. The pen stopped. Maya said, Name the time. He wrote it. Name the number Vale called you from. He wrote it. Name the pressure. Daniel stared at the page. Maya. Name it. He bent over the paper again. Mr. Vale referenced my brother Aaron Reese and said, You know how enhancements work. Some people get mercy when their families understand cooperation. Daniel's hand paused, and this time the anger in his face was not directed at Maya. He said that? Maya asked. Daniel nodded. Word for word. Then write word for word. He did. A copier started running behind them. An older attorney in suspenders walked in, made 3 copies, complained to nobody about the machine, and left. Daniel waited until the door closed before continuing. When he finished, Maya took the statement and read every line. No adjectives, no excuses, no attempt to make himself look noble. Good. Sign it. Daniel signed. Print your name. He did. Second copy. He stared at her. You think I'll take it back? I think fear has already made decisions for you once. The words landed. He signed the second copy. Maya took one original and slid it into a fresh envelope. She handed the other back to him. This doesn't make you clean. I know. Do you? Daniel looked toward the lobby, where people were beginning to move toward the courtrooms again. I thought I was buying time. For yourself. For my brother. And Caleb? His eyes dropped. I told myself you would find another way. That's what people say when they want someone else to pay for their silence. Daniel folded his copy once. What happens now? Now you send a scanned copy to the oversight contact you ignored yesterday. His head snapped up. You know about that? I know you received a request to confirm whether my report had been accessed. You didn't respond. Daniel rubbed a hand over his mouth. If I send it, Vale will know. Vale already knows you're weak. Let him learn you're useful. Before Daniel could answer, Maya's phone buzzed. One message. No name. Nora Fields did not come back from break. Maya's eyes hardened. Daniel saw the change. What? Maya stood. Nora. They moved fast, not running. Running made people look guilty. Maya crossed the lobby, past the directory, and reached the public records counter. The younger clerk looked up, startled. Where is Miss Fields? She went to lunch. She took lunch 20 minutes ago? The clerk hesitated. Deputy Marshal Phelps said the clerk administrator needed her downstairs. Downstairs? Where? I don't know, he said. Record storage. Maya turned and headed for the side corridor. Daniel caught her arm. You can't go after her alone. She looked at his hand until he released her. Then, keep up. At the corridor entrance, Phelps appeared with 2 folders under one arm and Maya's seized laptop bag over his shoulder. He stopped when he saw them. For 1 second, surprise cut through his face. Then the smile came back. Miss William. Still wandering? Where's Nora Fields? Clerk's office, I assume. Try again. Phelps tilted his head. Careful. Accusing officers seems to be a hobby of yours. Daniel stepped forward. Marshal, answer the question. Phelps looked him over. You again. Maya's gaze moved to the laptop bag. Enjoying federal property? Evidence of a security violation. Then where's the receipt? His smile thinned. Maya stepped closer. You took a laptop, a drive, and certified records from me in conference room C. You did it on camera. You gave no receipt. Now Nora Fields is missing from her post after printing records that connect your credentials to a canceled preservation hold. You want to keep standing in the hallway, or do you want to call someone with a title big enough to protect you? For the first time, Phelps did not have an immediate answer. Then Vale's voice came from behind him. This is becoming harassment. Maya turned. Vale stood near the courtroom entrance, face composed, eyes sharp. She said, Good. Then file something. Vale walked closer. You have inserted yourself into a federal prosecution, intimidated staff, trespassed in restricted areas, and now you're making wild allegations against court security. And you still haven't produced the phone report. His mask held, but barely. There is no report. Daniel spoke then. You requested it 3 days before indictment. Vale's eyes moved to him. Excuse me? Daniel's voice was rough, but steady. Your office requested the report. I saw the reference. So did others. Phelps stared at Daniel like he had just stepped on a live wire. Vale's voice lowered. Agent Reese, I would think very carefully before making statements outside your lane. Maya caught the title. Agent. Vale had said it out loud. Phelps heard it too. His eyes shifted quickly from Daniel to Maya, recalculating. Maya gave Daniel one brief look. He had just burned part of his cover without meaning to. The room had changed again. A clerk rushed out from the records hallway, breathless. Miss William? Maya turned. The clerk held a small, folded note. Miss Fields told me to give this to you if she didn't come back in 10 minutes. Phelps moved. Give that to me. The clerk froze. Maya stepped between them. No. Phelps reached past her. Daniel caught his wrist. The hallway went silent. Daniel's voice was low. Don't. Phelps looked at the hand on his wrist, then at Daniel. You just made a mistake. Daniel did not let go. Not the first one today. Maya took the note from the clerk and opened it. 3 words were written inside. Not B-17. Chapel. Maya's mind moved fast. The courthouse chapel was a small interfaith room near the old annex, used by jurors, families, and staff who needed quiet. No regular camera inside. 1 camera in the hall outside. A perfect place to scare a clerk without leaving much record. She folded the note. Vale watched her face. Something wrong? Maya looked at him. You tell me. She moved before he could answer. Phelps tried to follow, but Daniel stepped into his path. Where's the receipt for the seized laptop? Phelps cursed under his breath. Maya did not wait. She crossed the annex corridor, past 2 closed hearing rooms, and reached the chapel hallway. The camera outside had been turned toward the floor. Of course. She pushed open the chapel door. Nora Fields sat in the front row, hands clenched around her purse, alive, but shaking. Lewis Carter stood beside her, with a mop bucket, like a weapon, his jaw set. A court security officer sat on the floor near the wall, 1 hand pressed to his nose, blood on his fingers. Lewis looked at Maya. He tried to take her out the service door. Nora's voice trembled. I didn't go with him. Maya stepped inside and shut the door behind her. Who sent him? Nora looked toward the bleeding officer. The man said nothing. Lewis tapped the mop handle once against the floor. Man asked you a question with silence. Lady asked you with the law. I suggest you answer the lady. The officer swallowed. Phelps. Maya took out her phone. Say it again. His eyes widened. No. Maya stepped closer. You tried to remove a federal court employee after she printed records tied to witness intimidation and evidence suppression. You can say his name now, or you can say it later in cuffs. The officer looked at Nora, then at Lewis, then at the phone. Phelps told me to bring Miss Fields to the service exit, he said. Said Judge Whitaker wanted her away from the records counter until after sentencing. Maya recorded every word. Nora closed her eyes. Lewis muttered, Lord, these fools don't even sin smart anymore. Maya saved the recording and sent it with Daniel's statement, Denise's statement, the texts, and the B-17 clips through the secure channel she had been building since the first insult in open court. This time, she added 1 line, sentencing scheduled tomorrow. Immediate intervention required. Within 30 seconds, her phone vibrated. A reply appeared. Package received. Stand by for authorization. Maya looked at Nora. You need to leave the building with Lewis. Now. Nora shook her head. I can't just walk out. Yes, you can. My pension. Nora. Maya's voice cut through the panic. They just tried to disappear you before lunch. Your pension is not safer than your body. Lewis held out a hand. Come on, Miss Fields. I know a back way that ain't on Grant Phelps's little map. Nora stood, still shaking. Maya opened the door and looked into the hallway. Clear. But from the far end, she heard Phelps shouting Daniel's name. The chain had snapped. Now everyone could hear it. By the time Maya reached the records lobby again, the courthouse had stopped pretending nothing was wrong. People were watching without looking like they were watching. A clerk stood frozen with a stack of files against her chest. 2 attorneys whispered near the elevators. A family waiting for another hearing pulled closer together as Phelps's voice carried down the hall. Reese, you don't get to put hands on a deputy marshal and walk away. Daniel stood near the corridor entrance, 1 shoulder squared between Phelps and the path Maya had taken. His face was pale, but he had not moved. I asked for a receipt, Daniel said. Phelps stepped closer. You interfered with court security. You seized materials without documentation. Vale stood behind Phelps, no longer smiling. His polished calm had begun to crack around the mouth. Agent Reese, whatever internal disagreement you have with Miss William, this is not the place. Maya entered the lobby before Daniel could answer. He already chose the place. All 3 men turned. Phelps's eyes went past her, searching for Nora. Where's Fields? Safe. His jaw hardened. You don't decide that. No, Maya said. Your officer did when he admitted you ordered him to remove her through the service exit. Phelps took 1 step forward. Daniel moved with him. Vale lifted a hand. Grant. The single word stopped Phelps, but barely. Maya looked at Vale. You should call your office. I don't take instructions from witnesses. Today you might. Vale's eyes narrowed. What did you send? Maya did not answer. That frightened him more than any answer would have. The courtroom doors opened. The bailiff looked out. Parties. For United States v. Turner. Court is reconvening. Whitaker had not waited. Of course he had not. The faster he moved Caleb toward sentencing, the less time anyone had to stop him. Crane hurried down the hallway from the defense conference room. Caleb beside him. Caleb's mother close behind. Caleb's face changed when he saw Maya standing opposite Phelps and Vale. What happened? Caleb asked. Crane gripped his arm. Not here. Mrs. Turner looked at Maya. Her fingers tightened around the small Bible. Is my son in more trouble? Maya met her eyes. No, ma'am. But the people who put him here are. Phelps laughed once, harsh and ugly. You hear that? Now she's promising miracles. Mrs. Turner turned toward him with a steadiness that silenced even the attorneys nearby. Deputy, I have lived long enough to know the difference between a miracle and a man getting caught. For one clean second, Phelps had no response. Crane leaned close to Maya. I renewed everything. Whitaker denied it all. I have the page. Good. Good? He just announced sentencing considerations are moving today. Maya's head turned. Today? He changed it during the break. Said pending motions are resolved, and the court will address disposition before close. Vale said from behind them. The government is ready. Crane spun on him. Of course you are. The bailiff called again. Sharper this time. Counsel. Maya looked at Daniel. Did you send it? He held up his phone. Statement sent. Oversight contact confirmed receipt. And the scan? 2 channels. Phelps muttered. You stupid son of a... Daniel faced him. Finish that sentence near the camera. Phelps's eyes flicked upward. For once, he was standing in full view. Maya walked toward the courtroom doors. Crane followed, then Caleb and his mother. The gallery filled quickly behind them. Nobody knew exactly what was happening, but the courthouse had a nose for blood, and courtroom 2 smelled different now. Inside, Whitaker already sat on the bench. His robe looked heavier than before. His eyes moved across the room, stopping briefly on Phelps, then Vale, then Maya. He did not ask why she had returned. He did not insult her. That restraint told her the secure package had reached someone beyond his reach. Be seated, Whitaker said. No one had been told to rise. The bailiff looked confused, then sat down quickly. Whitaker shuffled papers that did not need shuffling. This court has reviewed the pending objections and finds no basis to delay proceedings. The defense has repeatedly attempted to inject unsupported claims into the record. The government has met its burden. Crane stood. Your Honor, the defense objects to proceeding before the court resolves the missing surveillance footage, the building access logs, the phone location report, and the intimidation of defense witness Denise Porter. Whitaker's gavel came down. Denied. Crane did not sit. For the record, the defense objects. Your objection is noted. The defense further objects to any sentencing discussion while exculpatory evidence remains withheld. Whitaker leaned forward. Mr. Crane, this court warned you. Crane's voice shook, but it did not break. And I am making the record anyway. Maya saw Caleb turn toward him. That small movement mattered. A man who had been abandoned by procedure had just heard his lawyer risk something. Vale rose. Your Honor, the government requests the court move forward. Mr. Turner has used delay and baseless accusations to avoid responsibility. Caleb stood suddenly. I didn't threaten anybody. Whitaker snapped. Mr. Turner, sit down. Caleb's mother reached for his sleeve. Baby. Caleb's chest rose and fell hard. But he sat. Whitaker stared down at him. This court will not tolerate outbursts. Maya stood. Phelps moved at once from the side wall. Whitaker's eyes locked on her. Miss William, if you interrupt this court again, you will be removed. Maya held a folded sheet in her hand. Not her credential. Not yet. Just one sheet. Your Honor, a court employee was removed from the records area under questionable circumstances less than 30 minutes ago. Whitaker's voice went cold. Sit down. The employee provided records concerning a preservation hold on the East Corridor footage. Vale stood. Objection. This witness has no standing. Maya looked at him. That never bothered you. When you sent a man to Denise Porter's apartment, the room erupted. Whitaker struck the gavel 3 times. Order. Order. Phelps started down the aisle. Daniel rose from the back row. Deputy Marshal. Stop. Phelps turned. Sit down, Reese. Whitaker froze. Agent Reese? There it was. A title, in open court, attached to the man who had just sent his statement through oversight channels. Vale's face hardened into something close to fear. Daniel said, Your Honor, materials relevant to this proceeding have been transmitted for review outside this court. Whitaker's eyes narrowed. By what authority? Daniel did not answer. Maya sat before Whitaker could force the question further. She had pushed just enough. Not the full reveal. Not yet. The room had heard the words, court employee, preservation hold, Denise Porter, Agent Reese, outside review. The record was widening. Whitaker realized it too. He gripped the gavel. This court will proceed. Crane stood again. Your Honor, the defense requests a stay. Denied. Pending independent review. Denied. Pending production of the phone report. Whitaker slammed the gavel. Denied. Crane looked back at Maya. She gave no signal. Not yet. Whitaker turned to Caleb. Mr. Turner, stand. Mrs. Turner whispered something that sounded like a prayer. Caleb stood. Whitaker began reading from the page before him. The defendant has shown a continued refusal to accept responsibility. He has permitted counsel to raise unsupported accusations, has disrupted proceedings, and has demonstrated hostility toward federal authority. Crane objected. Whitaker ignored him. Maya looked toward the courtroom clock. 3:41 p.m. Her phone, silenced in her bag, vibrated once against the bench. She did not reach for it. Phelps was watching. Whitaker continued. This court finds that the defendant presents a danger to the orderly administration of justice, and that immediate disposition is appropriate. Crane's voice broke through. Your Honor, this is not lawful. Whitaker looked down at him. Counsel, your disagreement is preserved. Vale stood beside his table, ready to ask for the sentence. He looked at Caleb but spoke to the judge. The government recommends custody. Mrs. Turner made a sound then, not a cry, not a word, just the sound of a mother's breath being hit. Maya's phone vibrated again. Daniel saw it. He pulled out his own phone, read something, and looked up at Maya. His face changed. Authorization. Maya did not move yet. Whitaker lifted the gavel. Mr. Turner, he said, this court, hereby. The courtroom doors opened, not loudly, not dramatically, but everyone heard them. 2 federal agents stepped in, followed by a gray-haired man in a dark suit carrying a sealed folder. Behind him came a woman Maya recognized from the secure oversight channel, though no one else in the room knew her name. Phelps turned first. Vale went rigid. Whitaker's gavel hovered in the air. The gray-haired man walked to the center aisle and spoke with the calm force of someone whose authority did not need volume. Judge Whitaker, this proceeding is under immediate federal review. Do not strike that gavel. The room went silent. Maya rose from the back row. This time, Phelps did not move. Caleb Turner stood frozen beside his attorney, one breath away from a sentence that had just been stopped in midair. Maya stepped into the aisle, eyes on the bench. Whitaker stared at her as if seeing the witness stand again. The laughter, the insult, the woman he thought he had dismissed. For the first time, he looked unsure, and Maya knew the next words would change the room forever. Maya stepped into the aisle without rushing. The agents at the back remained still. The gray-haired man in the dark suit kept his sealed folder against his chest. The woman from oversight stood beside him, eyes fixed on the bench, not on the gallery, not on the cameras, not on the faces suddenly trying to look innocent. Judge Whitaker lowered the gavel a few inches but did not put it down. Identify yourself, he said. The gray-haired man answered first. Nathaniel Price, special counsel assigned for emergency judicial review. Whitaker's face hardened. This is my courtroom, Mr. Price. Price did not blink. Not for the purpose of burying an active federal review. Vale stood. Your Honor, the government objects to this interruption. There has been no notice. The oversight woman looked at him. Mr. Vale, you received notice the moment your office terminal appeared in a suppression log tied to missing defense evidence. Vale's mouth opened, then closed. Phelps stayed near the side wall, both hands visible now, his body no longer drifting in front of the camera. He looked at the agents near the door, then at Whitaker, waiting for an order that did not come. Whitaker pointed toward Maya. This woman has disrupted proceedings since yesterday. She is a witness with no standing. Maya stopped halfway down the aisle. No, Judge, she said. I was a witness yesterday. His eyes locked on her. The room held its breath. Maya reached inside her jacket and removed her credential case. She did not flash it like a weapon. She opened it slowly, turned it toward the bench, then toward the room. My name is Maya William. I am an investigator with the Office of the Inspector General, United States Department of Justice. No one laughed this time. Caleb Turner's lips parted, but no sound came out. Michael Crane gripped the edge of the defense table, as if the floor had shifted beneath him. Missus. Turner pressed one hand over her Bible and the other over her mouth. Phelps's face went flat. Vale looked at Daniel Reese. Daniel looked back without apology. Whitaker stared at the credential as though it were an insult written in metal and leather. You came into this court under false pretenses. Maya closed the credential case. I came into this court under federal authority. You assumed I had none. A low murmur moved through the gallery. Whitaker struck the gavel. Order. Price stepped forward. Judge Whitaker, the sentencing of Caleb Turner is stayed pending emergency review of judicial misconduct, prosecutorial suppression of evidence, witness intimidation, and possible obstruction of a federal investigation. Whitaker stood. You have no authority to stay proceedings in my court without proper filing. The oversight woman walked to the clerk's desk and placed a sealed order on top of it. Filed electronically 9 minutes ago. Hard copy served now. The clerk looked at the seal, then at Whitaker, unsure whether touching the paper might end her career. Maya said, Enter it. The clerk looked at Whitaker. Price's voice sharpened. Enter it. The clerk took the order and stamped it into the record. That sound, one clean stamp against paper, hit the room harder than the gavel had. Vale stepped away from the prosecution table. This is outrageous. Maya turned to him. No, Mr. Vale. Outrageous is hiding a phone location report that places your defendant miles from the alleged incident. Vale's face went white around the mouth. There is no such report. Maya held out her hand. The oversight woman placed a printed page in it. Maya read from it without raising her voice. Request generated by the United States Attorney's Office, 3 days before indictment. Subject: Caleb Turner device location analysis. Requested by R. Vale. Received by prosecution terminal. Never produced in discovery. Crane turned fully toward Vale. You had it. Vale snapped. That document is not authenticated. Maya looked to Price. Price opened his folder. It is now. The original was recovered from the suppressed case materials archive and matched against server logs received from DOJ oversight. Phelps took one step toward the side door. One of the federal agents at the back said, Deputy Marshal Phelps, stay where you are. Phelps stopped. Whitaker's voice rose. I will not allow this circus to continue. Maya faced him again. You allowed it when you called a black witness filth in open court. You allowed it when you denied the missing footage. You allowed it when you cut off questions about the access logs. You allowed it when Deputy Marshal Phelps blocked a courtroom camera while your prosecutor passed notes toward Chambers. That is a lie, Whitaker said. Maya looked toward the wall camera. It is on video. The gallery erupted again. Whitaker struck the gavel twice. Order. Maya did not wait for the room to settle. Yesterday, you ordered my remarks struck. Today, you are going to hear the record you could not strike. Price nodded to one of the agents. The agent moved to the AV console near the clerk's station and connected a secured tablet to the courtroom display. The screen at the front flickered, then showed a frozen image of the east corridor. Phelps's throat moved. Vale stepped back to his table. Whitaker remained standing, one hand pressed against the bench. Maya turned to Caleb. Mr. Turner, you do not need to speak. Caleb nodded once. Stunned, Maya turned to Mrs. Turner. "Ma'am, you may want to sit." Mrs. Turner lowered herself slowly, Bible still in hand, her eyes never leaving Maya. The first video began. The timestamp read 9:42. Caleb stood near the elevator, phone in hand. Alone. He was not shouting. He was not threatening Thomas Greer. Thomas Greer was not even in the corridor. A sharp sound came from the defense table. Crane had covered his mouth with one hand. The video advanced. At 9:51, Greer entered from the service side. He walked toward Caleb, blocking his path. Caleb stepped back, raising both hands. No aggression, no lunge, no threat. At 9:55, Phelps entered the frame from the service hall, not responding to panic, not running toward danger, but stepping out as if he had been waiting for his cue. Maya let the footage run long enough for the jury, the clerk, the agents, the gallery, and Whitaker himself to understand the lie. Then she said, "The arrest report says the threat occurred at 9:42. This footage shows the complaining witness was not present at 9:42. Vale spoke through clenched teeth. "Video without audio does not prove there was no threat." Maya looked at him. "Then you should not have worked so hard to bury it." The second video appeared. Phelps in the hallway with Denise Porter, his body close, his hand near his badge. His voice was low but clear enough. "Your son's probation file is still open. Testify for Turner, and I promise you that boy won't sleep at home next week." Mrs. Turner whispered, "Lord." Denise was not in the room, but her fear filled it anyway. Maya turned toward Phelps. "Did you deny pressuring any witness under oath this morning?" Phelps did not answer. Price said, "Deputy Marshal, do not speak without counsel." That sentence changed him from officer to subject. The third clip loaded. Conference room C. Phelps standing over Maya's bag. His voice came through the courtroom speakers. "Whatever game you're playing, little girl, it ends before sentencing." Then Maya's voice in the recording. "Is Judge Whitaker aware you're detaining a witness off the record?" Phelps's voice again. "Who's going to believe you?" Maya looked at him across the room. The camera did. Daniel lowered his eyes, but his signed statement was already in the packet. Crane stood straighter. Mrs. Turner's hand tightened around Caleb's sleeve. Whitaker looked at Price. "These materials are being presented out of order, without proper foundation, in violation of this court's rules." Price said, "Judge, the issue is no longer your courtroom management. The issue is whether this courtroom was used to conceal a crime." Maya stepped closer to the front. Whitaker pointed at her. "You manipulated this court. No. You misjudged a witness. You concealed your identity. You concealed evidence." Vale snapped. "Your Honor, I request a recess." Maya turned on him. "You requested the phone report. You suppressed the camera fault notice. You received information from Agent Reese after pressuring him through his brother's case. And you sent an unnamed man to Denise Porter's apartment." Vale's eyes flicked toward the gallery. Maya caught it. He was also seen on the diner camera. Vale said nothing. The oversight woman handed another page to Price, who read it quickly, then looked toward the agents. One of them moved closer to Phelps. Whitaker finally placed the gavel down. He did not strike it. That silence said more than any ruling. Maya looked at the bench, then at the same gavel he had used to threaten her. Crane, Caleb, and the record itself. "You asked me who I thought I was," she said. Whitaker did not respond. Maya held up her credential once more. "Not for him now, but for the room. I am the investigator, assigned to find out whether this court was still serving justice or only protecting itself." Caleb's mother began to cry quietly then, not with weakness, but with the exhaustion of someone who had held her breath too long. Price turned to the clerk. "Enter the stay. Seal the presented materials. Preserve all courtroom recordings from yesterday and today. No deletion, no alteration, no transfer without written authorization." The clerk nodded quickly and began typing. Maya looked at Whitaker. He no longer looked angry. He looked exposed. And for the first time since the trial began, Caleb Turner was not the one standing closest to judgment. Price ordered the courtroom doors closed. The sound of the latch clicking into place ran through the room like a second verdict. No one was allowed out. No one was allowed in. The gallery stiffened, but the agents at the back did not move. and that alone told everyone this was no longer Judge Whitaker's rhythm to control. Whitaker remained behind the bench, one hand resting near the gavel he no longer dared to strike. "This proceeding is suspended," Price said. "All present officers of the court will remain available until Federal Review personnel complete initial preservation steps." Vale stood rigid beside the prosecution table. "Special Counsel Price, I object to the implication that the government has acted improperly." Maya turned to him. "Then, you'll have no problem preserving your emails, call logs, text messages, case notes, and device history." Vale's mouth tightened. "You don't have authority to seize my work product." The oversight woman stepped forward. "No one said work product. We said evidence preservation. There is a difference, and you know it." Crane looked from Vale to Maya, then to Caleb. For the first time in 2 days, he looked like a defense attorney instead of a man asking permission to breathe. "Your Honor," Crane said, then corrected himself and turned to Price. "Special Counsel, the defense requests immediate access to the phone location report and the full East Corridor footage." Vale snapped. "Denied." Crane looked at him. "You don't get to say that anymore." A ripple moved through the courtroom. Whitaker's eyes burned. "Mr. Crane, you are still in my courtroom." Maya faced the bench. "Not when you use it to conceal a crime." The words struck clean. Whitaker stood slowly. "You will not speak to me that way. I am speaking to the record." Price lifted one hand. "Judge Whitaker, sit down." The judge did not. For a moment, the entire room held on that single act of refusal. A federal judge in his own courtroom, being told to sit by a man with a sealed order and agents at the doors. Phelps watched from the side, no longer sure which authority could save him. Vale looked at Whitaker as if willing him not to make things worse. Whitaker sat. Price nodded to the agent at the AV console. "Continue." The screen changed again. This time it showed the courtroom from the previous day. Maya on the witness stand. Whitaker leaning forward. Phelps shifting near the side wall. Vale watching from the prosecution table. The audio played. "Your race has never appeared here as anything but criminals. Step down now before I have you dragged out." The words sounded different when the courtroom heard them from its own recording system. No heat of the moment. No excuse of misunderstanding. Just a judge's voice. Clear and ugly. Preserved by the room he thought he owned. Mrs. Turner closed her eyes. Caleb looked at the floor. Crane whispered, "Jesus." Whitaker's face turned a dull red. "That recording lacks context." Maya did not look away from him. "The context is a federal judge said it to a black witness in open court." Phelps shifted. The screen advanced. Phelps moved directly in front of the camera as Vale slid a folded note beneath a file. The clerk picked it up and carried it toward the side door. The timestamp sat bright in the corner. Price looked at Vale. "Who received that note?" Vale stared at the screen. "I don't recall," Maya said. "Then we'll help you." The next image came from the hall outside chambers. The clerk handed the file to Whitaker's chambers administrator. Moments later, the administrator entered the private corridor. The oversight woman read from her tablet. At the same time, an internal terminal accessed the case management note regarding defense requests for surveillance footage. Vale said, "Court staff handle documents all day. This proves nothing." Maya answered before Price could. "It proves you were communicating toward chambers while the court was limiting defense objections. It proves Phelps blocked the camera during that exchange. And it proves every person involved knew the public record did not match the private one." Phelps spoke then, voice tight. "I was standing where I was assigned." Maya turned to him. "You assigned yourself to the blind spot." The agent beside Phelps stepped closer. "Deputy Marshal Grant Phelps. You are being detained pending further questioning regarding witness intimidation, obstruction of evidence preservation, and interference with a federal review." Phelps's head snapped toward Price. "On whose authority?" Price held up the sealed order. "The one you should have been worried about." The agent took Phelps's arm. Phelps jerked once. "Don't put hands on me in front of these people." Maya's eyes hardened. "That's what Caleb said when you grabbed him." The agent cuffed him. The click of metal carried through the room. Caleb stared at Phelps, as if the sound had unlocked something in his chest. His mother gripped the Bible so tightly, the cover bent under her fingers. Phelps looked at Whitaker. "Judge." Whitaker did not speak. Phelps's face changed when he realized silence was the only protection Whitaker had left to offer. Vale stepped back from the prosecution table, phone already in his hand. "Put it down," the oversight woman said. "I'm calling my supervisor. You may do so after your device is preserved." "This is absurd." Maya took one step toward him. "No, Mr. Vale. Absurd is asking a jury to believe a man committed a threat at 9:42, when your own records show the complaining witness entered the hallway at 9:51. Crane stood. "And the defense moves for immediate dismissal." Vale snapped. "You don't get dismissal because of administrative confusion." Crane's voice rose. "Administrative confusion? My client was one gavel strike away from custody while you hid the report that clears him." Whitaker slammed his hand on the bench, not the gavel. "Enough." Price turned to him. "Judge Whitaker, you are directed to step down from the bench pending reassignment of this matter." The courtroom went silent again. Whitaker's lips parted. "You cannot remove me from my bench." "Temporarily relieved from presiding over this matter," Price said. "Effective immediately." The clerk stopped typing. Even the bailiff stared. Whitaker looked toward the gallery, then toward the flag, then toward the bench, as if the height of it might return his authority if he simply stayed seated long enough. Maya watched him carefully. This was the moment men like Whitaker hated most. Not the accusation, not the evidence, the loss of performance. The room had stopped acting as though his robe made him righteous. He stood, slowly. Vale whispered, "Judge, don't say anything." Whitaker stepped down from the bench. As he passed the prosecution table, he looked at Maya with the same contempt he had carried from the first insult. But now it had fear under it. "You people never know when to stay in your place," he said. The room heard it. The camera heard it. Maya did not move toward him. She did not raise her voice. She only answered clearly enough for the front rows to carry it backward. "That's where you were wrong, Judge. I knew exactly where my place was." Whitaker stopped. Maya looked toward the witness stand, then the clerk's desk, then the camera, then the defense table where Caleb stood beside his mother. In this courtroom, on the record, with evidence, no one spoke. Whitaker's face emptied. For once, he had no ruling that could erase the words. An agent escorted him toward the side door. Not in handcuffs, not yet, but not as a man in command. Phelps was led out through the main aisle in cuffs. Vale remained near the prosecution table, guarded by the oversight woman's stare and his own failing composure. Price turned to Crane. "Mr. Crane, this case will be reassigned. The stay remains in effect. Defense will receive the preserved materials under emergency protective order." Crane nodded, voice rough. "Thank you." Caleb finally spoke. "Am I going to jail today?" The question cut through every legal phrase in the room. Price looked at him, then at Maya, then back to Crane. "No, Mr. Turner. Not today." Mrs. Turner broke then. She pulled Caleb into her arms right there beside the defense table. Bible crushed between them. Caleb bent over his mother's shoulder like a man who had been holding up a wall and had just been told he could let it fall. Maya watched for only a second, then turned away. There was still work. She walked to the clerk's desk and placed one final copy of the preservation log on top. "Enter this with the stay." The clerk nodded quickly. Behind Maya, Vale's voice came low and bitter. "You think this ends anything?" Maya turned back. "No," she said. "I think it starts the part you can't control." Price closed his folder. The gavel still lay on the bench, untouched. For the first time since Maya had entered courtroom 2, no one was waiting for it to decide the truth. The courtroom did not empty all at once. People moved slowly, as if they were afraid sudden motion might break the spell that had stopped Caleb Turner's sentence in midair. The jurors were escorted out first, silent and wide-eyed. Clerks gathered papers with trembling hands. Attorneys who had slipped in to watch stood near the back, no longer pretending they had come by accident. The agents remained at the doors until Price gave a quiet nod. Caleb stayed beside the defense table, still in the same worn Navy suit, still looking like a man waiting for someone to tell him the last 5 minutes had not really happened. Michael Crane put one hand on his shoulder. "Caleb, listen to me. The sentencing is stayed. The case is being reassigned. They're going to review the evidence. Caleb looked at him. But the charges? Not dismissed yet. Mrs. Turner's face tightened. Crane continued quickly. But the phone report, the footage, Denise's statement, all of it is now part of the review. They cannot pretend it doesn't exist anymore. Caleb looked across the courtroom at Maya. She stood near the clerk's desk, speaking with Price and the oversight woman, her voice low, her posture steady. She no longer looked like the witness Whitaker had mocked. She looked like the reason the room had changed shape. Caleb walked toward her, but stopped halfway, unsure whether he was allowed. Maya turned before he spoke. "I don't know what to say," he said. "You don't have to say anything." He swallowed hard. "I thought I was gone." "I know." "No, ma'am." His voice cracked despite his effort to keep it firm. "I mean gone. Like they already had a place picked out for me." Maya's face did not soften into pity. That helped him more than pity would have. "They did," she said. "That's why the record had to beat the clock." Mrs. Turner came up beside him, Bible clutched to her chest. "Miss Maya." Maya turned fully toward her. "Ma'am." The older woman reached for Maya's hands, then stopped, as if asking permission, without words. Maya gave both hands. Mrs. Turner held them tightly. "God sent you into that room." Maya shook her head once. "No, ma'am. People like you kept praying long enough for somebody to finally listen." Mrs. Turner's eyes filled. "Prayer and listening both take work." "Yes, ma'am, they do." Price stepped closer. "Mrs. Turner, Mr. Turner, you'll be escorted out through a secure exit. Deputy Marshal Phelps's contacts are being reviewed. But until we know who else was involved, we're not taking chances." Caleb looked toward the doors where Phelps had been let out. "He knows where my mama lives." "We know," Price said. "That changes today." Crane straightened. "I want that in writing." For the first time, Price almost smiled. "You'll get it." Maya glanced at Crane. "Good sentence." Crane looked exhausted, but he understood. "I'm learning." Across the room, Vale stood beside the prosecution table with his phone sealed in a clear evidence pouch. He had not been arrested, but he had lost the smoothness that once made him dangerous. His tie sat crooked. His cuffs were no longer perfect. 2 agents waited near him while the oversight woman read from a preservation checklist. Vale caught Maya's eye. "You know this will be challenged." Maya walked toward him. "Everything true usually is. You embarrassed a federal judge in his own courtroom." "No. His conduct did that. You think you're clean because you wore a badge under your jacket?" Maya stopped in front of him. "I think you asked a court to sentence a man while hiding evidence that cleared him." Vale leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You have no idea how many careers are tied to Whitaker." Maya held his stare. "Then you should start counting." The oversight woman looked up. "Mr. Vale, step away from the table." Vale obeyed. That was enough. Near the side aisle, Daniel Reese waited with his signed statement folder in one hand. He had the face of a man who had saved one piece of himself too late to save the rest. "Maya," he said. She walked over. Daniel handed her a copy of the transmission receipt. "Oversight confirmed my statement. They're opening a separate inquiry." "Good. My brother won't be protected." "No." He nodded as if he had expected the answer and hated it anyway. "I told him what I did. And he called me a coward." Maya did not answer. Daniel gave a short, broken laugh. "He wasn't wrong. Cowards keep lying when the door opens." "You signed. That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No. It's supposed to make you useful." He looked at her for a long moment. "You always this generous?" "Only on court days." For the first time, Daniel smiled without pretending. It disappeared quickly. "I'm sorry." "I know. Does that matter?" "Not as much as what you do next." He nodded and stepped aside as 2 agents approached him for a formal interview. Nora Fields left through the staff corridor with Lewis Carter walking beside her, one hand on his mop handle, the other holding the strap of her purse because her fingers would not stop shaking. Maya caught up before they reached the door. "Nora." Nora turned. Her face looked 10 years older than it had that morning, but her chin was up. "Did it matter?" she asked. Maya took a copy of the stamped preservation order from her folder and handed it to her. "You made it matter." Nora stared at the paper. I almost didn't. Almost is not what went into the record. Lewis Carter grunted. Told you, Miss Fields. Old buildings keep secrets, but old workers know where they leak. Nora gave a weak laugh, then covered her mouth. Maya looked at Lewis. Thank you. He shrugged. Don't thank me. Fix the part where men like him get keys. I'll try. Lewis's eyes narrowed. Try hard. Yes, sir. Price returned to the center of the courtroom and announced the immediate orders. Caleb Turner's case would be reassigned. All evidence connected to the East Corridor, access logs, phone location data, witness contacts, and courtroom recordings would be preserved. Denise Porter would be placed under witness protection review. Nora Fields would be protected from retaliation pending federal inquiry. Prior cases involving Judge Whitaker, Assistant U.S. Attorney Vale, and Deputy Marshal Phelps would be flagged for review if similar evidence patterns appeared. Crane listened with a pen in hand, writing everything down. This time no one mocked him for making a record. When the formalities ended, Caleb and his mother were escorted toward the secure exit. Before leaving, Caleb turned back. Maya. She looked at him. He stood taller now, not healed, not free of what had happened, but no longer bent under a sentence written before trial. I served this country, he said, voice rough. And today was the first time in that room. I felt like the country looked back. Maya nodded once. Hold on to that. You may need it for the next fight. Mrs. Turner placed one hand on her son's arm. We're tired, baby, but we ain't done. Caleb looked at his mother, then back at Maya. No, ma'am, we ain't. They left through the side door. The room thinned after that. Agents carried sealed evidence bags. The clerk finished entering orders. The courtroom lights hummed above rows of benches that had held laughter, fear, lies, and finally proof. Maya remained near the front. The gavel still lay on the bench, untouched. Evelyn Brooks called as Maya stepped into the aisle. Maya answered. It's done for today. Did you get him? Maya looked at the bench where Whitaker had sat. No. Evelyn waited. The evidence did. A quiet sound came through the phone. Not quite laughter. Not quite grief. Your father would have liked that answer. Maya looked toward the witness stand. For 1 second, she could almost hear the words Evelyn had once told her he believed. Pain could start a fight, but proof had to finish it. He used to say the truth doesn't need to shout, Maya said. It just needs a record. And you got one. Maya looked at the clerk stamping the final order, at Crane holding his notes, at the empty place where Phelps had stood, at Vale's sealed phone. At the camera, no one was blocking anymore. Yes, she said. We got one. Then eat something before you go chasing the next devil. Maya almost smiled. That an order? That is old woman law. Stronger than federal law in some counties. I'll remember that. You remember everything, child. That's what scares them. The call ended. Maya walked toward the exit. In the lobby, families still waited for other hearings. An old man removed his hat as a woman passed with a crying child. 2 veterans sat near the wall comparing appointment letters. A courthouse employee held the elevator for a woman with a walker. Life continued in the same building, where a man had almost been swallowed by a lie. Outside the courthouse, the air felt loud with traffic and voices. Maya did not stop on the steps. She kept walking until she reached the sidewalk across the street. Only then did she turn back. The building looked the same. That was the danger. Rot did not always announce itself with broken windows. Sometimes it wore a robe. Sometimes it carried a badge. Sometimes it smiled from behind a government table and called itself justice. Her phone buzzed. A secure notification appeared. New complaint received. Federal Courthouse, Alabama. Allegations include altered evidence logs and witness coercion. Maya read it once. Then another message came from Price. You are requested for preliminary review. She put the phone away, crossed the street with the light, and headed toward her car. Behind her, the courthouse doors opened, and Michael Crane stepped out, loosening his tie. He saw her and called, Investigator William. Maya turned. Crane lifted the folded page she had given him earlier. For what it's worth, I won't wait so long next time. Maya looked at him, then at the page. Good, she said. Because next time somebody may not have time for you to find your courage. He nodded, accepting the hit because it was true. Maya opened her car door. Crane called once more. What happens to Whitaker? Maya paused. The record happens. She got in, started the engine, and pulled away from the curb. The courthouse shrank in her rearview mirror, but the work did not. It never did. Not for people like Caleb. Not for women like Denise and Nora. Not for mothers who carried Bibles into courtrooms because sometimes faith was the only thing officials had not learned how to confiscate. Maya drove toward the interstate, one hand steady on the wheel. Another town, another courtroom, another sealed door, and somewhere behind it, another truth waiting for someone patient enough to make it speak. The lesson from Maya Williams' story is simple but powerful. Justice does not always arrive with noise, anger, or applause. Sometimes it comes quietly, through patience, courage, and a record no one can erase. A person may be mocked, underestimated, and pushed aside, but truth has a way of standing taller than power when someone is brave enough to preserve it. This story reminds us that discrimination, corruption, and cruelty survive when good people stay silent, but they begin to fall apart when even one person refuses to look away. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this story. Your time, your attention, and your heart mean more than words can say. If this story moved you, please share your thoughts with us. Tell us what you liked, what could be told better, and how we can improve the way we bring these stories to life. And if you have a true story, a powerful memory, or a meaningful lesson about justice, kindness, betrayal, or courage, we would be honored if you shared it with our channel. Your story may be the one someone else needs to hear. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.